Good morning. Today is Tuesday, November 26, 2019. We are here for the manager's budget hearings. It was advertised in the Asbury Park Press on November 15th, 2019 as follows. Please take notice that the Howell Township manager, along with the department heads of the Township of Howell, will hold a budget presentation for the proposed 2020 municipal budget on November 25th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., and November 26th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in the main meeting room, second floor, in the municipal building, 4567 Route 9 North, Howell, New Jersey. This notice is pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. The public is invited to attend but may not participate. Any personnel matters will be discussed in executive session. And I will turn it over to the township manager.
Okay.
I guess I'll go around and make it official.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, but I thought we were going higher than that. Well, all right then. All right. First up, we have the clerk's office. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. And your requests, they're all in line with last year.
Yeah, I don't think there's much different.
The one thing I did want to ask about, you had submitted for upgrades for everybody in the office.
Yes.
When was the last time they had them? I noticed that everybody basically wrote their own.
Right, so what was the department head recommendations?
Memos of recommendation or justification were included for each. I mean, they are all hard workers, and
We don't need to get into the details now, but
Uh-huh.
you provided recommendations or they provided their own recommendations?
they described why they felt it was justified, gave examples. This is how I was told it was done. No? They basically provided backgrounds of how long they've been working in the office, how long they've been working for the town, new responsibilities they've taken on, and basically my memos just back that up. And
Did you get the memos?
As far as overtime in your office, the numbers I have, out of 3,000 budgeted, you would only use $671 for the year. Actually, that was before election day too, so.
yeah, so there's probably a little more than that, but
Lou, do you have a current number for that, with their overtime?
Still 671.52. I mean, I know we just posted payroll up through all November.
Okay. Do most people take comp time?
most people do take comp time, but from what I understand, there has to be the option
Okay.
for them to do either. So we
All right.
just want to have it available if people do choose the overtime.
And actually, this is a big election year coming, so we should probably leave that alone. All right.
I had printed my report on Friday. Alexis had posted payroll yesterday. I'm just going to pull that number for you real quick.
Okay. While they're looking that up, anything changing with like advertising or printing, mailing, that kind of stuff?
No, I don't believe so. Last year, or this past year, we did have more expense than usual with mailing and postage because of the changes with the polling places. We had to do a lot of mailing,
Okay.
postcards and letters to inform voters of their new.
The change.
Yeah, of the change.
Alright.
But other than that, I don't think anything has changed.
Okay.
On this sheet here, it's all blank. There's no backup reasoning why you're asking for the money you're asking for.
And which sheet is that, Chaos?
Your expense sheet,
We have an attachment because there's just not any room, really.
She did provide me that. I could have swore I put it in with the document. I have it. I can provide it to you. I missed putting it, including it in PDF, but she didn't.
Okay.
She did provide that.
This might be my only copy that I have with me. I apologize.
That's all right. We can give it to us.
Yeah, it's basically lists everything.
so you did it all on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just.
I just, yeah, it was blank, so I didn't,
Yeah,
and
there
I
was
don't
just-
have that sheet, so we'll get it from Lou.
Yes. Okay.
I don't think there's much to do with this one.
Nope.
All right.
Well, that was easy-ish.
The upgrades will be contemplated as part of the whole budget.
Okay.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What about the governing body,
That-
public
that's why-
service, good, public service?
Their overtime paid out is just short of $1,100.
Okay.
So they're balanced at 1,900.
Oh, public service.
Another upgrade request here, too.
Yeah.
Increase in the Humane Society contract.
That was flat, but same as last year, but I'm actually shopping that around. Where? Yeah, Lou, why'd the change in the split for Humane Society?
That was the amount that was provided to me by the department.
Do you know why that's? The contract is the same as last year, so why?
Right.
You're asking for 4550, an increase of 4550 on the Humane Society contract.
I am wondering if that. I will have to check with Maria.
All right. I wonder if that's because of the other increases, only percentage can be taken out of the dog account.
Maybe.
I bet.
Or did we just mistakenly add this one and this one together to equal 100,000, thinking that was the way to do it? I don't
Yeah,
know.
but like if, does her salary come out of that
Her-
fund too? Maria's?
That employee is she's the singular employee that's charged to that cost center.
And is it her whole salary or only half?
It's her entire, no, it's her 100%.
That would probably explain the difference. Her increase. That's budgeted for.
We'll have to get some more information on that one.
Dan. Good? All right, that's it.
That is it.
We're gonna need more info on that, the split.
Yes.
For the
I
Dog
will,
trust.
go ask Maria right now, and we can email it to you?
Sure,
Okay.
thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
we didn't make any adjustments like to overtime or any of that, okay.
Not yet. I am pricing that out, though. I want to talk to
Associated
Humane
Mhm.
to see if they can tighten up their price, because
Sure.
the SPCA came in a little bit cheaper. I talked to them, they came in a little bit cheaper than that. I don't know if it's really enough to
Sure.
change over the operation for a couple $1,000.
Sure, exactly.
But, you know, if we can get
Mhm.
Humane Society to tighten theirs up.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the difference on there, and you know, it's like at some point you have to let the department heads speak for themselves. As much as I wanted to, you know, head things off at the pass, it's like, you know what? I'm not
Just cream
babysitting
in your
anymore.
coffee. Heavy cream in your coffee. Allison's bringing me one. Sweet. Let's go.
It was early.
Right in.
Morning.
Good morning.
Gentlemen and ladies.
Pages here.
One thing, if I may, we did receive the $10,000 emergency management agency grant, so we can anticipate it in the 2020 budget, and we can apply it to your salaries
Yes.
as
now-
well. So,
Now, the state did change the way we could use that funding also.
Okay.
It doesn't have to go strictly for salaries.
okay,
It could be used in any aspect of OEM.
sure.
So they just changed that. So if you want to leave it for salaries, that's fine, but then
I'm
again,
just
we could
throwing it
change
out there
around.
that we can reduce operations by 10,000 and use the grant, or, you know, just throwing it out there to begin with, that's all.
Okay, thank you. It was strictly for salaries, but this year they changed the way the game is being held.
And I made sure, because we received, I guess, the grant you got prior,
Yes.
so we got $10,000 twice this year. So
Oh.
the $10,000 that we got earlier in the year, I offset to your salary and wages for this year. And now I have basically the second $10,000 I'm basically keeping in the grant fund as unappropriated, and then we can appropriate it in the 2020 budget. and
Okay.
do the same thing if necessary.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, salaries are the same, so that's fine. The uniforms,
Yes.
why are you requesting an increase?
The increase was because we have more volunteers that are responding to the only type of call that we actually respond to as a responder is the hazmat calls. And I absolutely have volunteers out there doing some operations, and they're also responding to assist the police and fire department, other sorts of calls. Like we got called at least 3 times to assist them in traffic posts. So again, I need to equip them if they're going to be blocking roads and out there doing some type of operations. I can't have them in civilian clothing.
Lou, why is there nothing charged to this line? I know there was definitely purchases made.
For uniforms?
There's 500, shows 500 being encumbered.
Yes, I encumbered 500, which should be used within the next week or so to fulfill that.
I'm looking at this one.
Oh, that one? Yeah, but there were uniforms purchased throughout the year earlier. I know you had done T-shirts and stuff like that.
The only thing I did was T-shirts. I did T-shirts off that for the volunteers, and now it's getting cold, so they didn't have the proper attire for the winter months. So that's why I encumbered the money, and actually the jackets are in, the jackets and boots, and I do believe I ordered sweatshirts for them. So they're in for the winter months, and that will suffice the 4 volunteers that are currently active, but now that I have more volunteers that are volunteering, I need to keep supplying them. I can't have 4 with stuff and 4 without. So that's why the increase.
There should have been other charges, though, previous to this encumbrance.
Charging it to trust.
Possible it got charged to the trust.
I don't know.
It was, there's several uniform purchases that was charged to the trust. There was one big purchase for turnout equipment that was purchased out of the trust fund, because again, we're in some kind of, we're in a situation where we're not properly equipped to be back there. So now we're equipped to be in a position where if there's a hazmat scene, we're equipped to have turnout gear on and accountability tags and everything else that, if God forbid something happens to one of us, that we're properly equipped.
Shouldn't we continue to have the fund trust those then, the uniforms?
We could do it that way. I mean, again, I tried to fulfill the operational budget this year, with that, I tried to off-balance some hazmat funds with the regular operation budget that was there.
You thinking what I'm thinking?
I would say, let's keep that flat, at the very least.
And I put it in there for that. I mean, I do use the hazmat appropriation fund. I do use it a lot. And
Pardon?
I do use the hazmat operations fund, the trust fund a lot to offset this.
So,
I'll take 500 off of that.
yeah, leave that flat.
Take 500 off of.
Safety supplies,
Safety supplies, I'm down, I put the vest in there. We need more cones. We're very limited on flares. Again, that's stuff that, in a pinch, that OEM needs. We can bring it out to the people that need them in an emergency. Again, I don't know when that emergency is going to occur, but right now I have 0 flares. I have very minimum cones. And I know the police department has flares, but again, in a big, large-scale emergency, I'd like to have at least a supply of flares on hand at the OEM building to supplement police, fire, and EMS at a scene.
right? Why the increase in communications maintenance?
Well, because we built out the EOC with new equipment, and that equipment tends to break over time, and I don't know when it's going to falter. I know it's new, but again, I don't know when that would happen. So that's the increase, and plus, stuff was being paid out of the hazmat trust fund that shouldn't have been paid, like e-dispatch was taken out of the hazmat trust fund, which it should be coming out of my operations budget for communications. Because that's for an EMS, the e-dispatch is for EMS, not fire. So it actually dispatches us, and it dispatches the EMS squads. It does not dispatch the fire squads. And I just found that out this year, that the e-dispatch is not we don't pay for fire e-dispatch. We only cover the EMS and us on the e-dispatch.
So EMS is being paid out of here?
Yes.
Why?
That was something my predecessor did.
Are you sure? Because
Positive.
the number that you've spent this year is $2,600.
Right, but the e-dispatch is gonna suck up a lot of that money if it switches from the hazmat trust fund, which it shouldn't be being paid out of. It should be being paid out of the operations budget for communications, because it's not a fire hazmat function, the e-dispatch. It's for EMS and just us being dispatched.
How much is it?
It's like $3,000, I do believe, that e-dispatch. I don't have.
For how many members? Because it's a tiered system
It's a
based on the
tiered
number of
system,
members.
and we're I've been fighting with the EMS squads to give me an accurate count, because I'm almost full with my licenses, with the amount of members on that right now. So I sent out Allison sent out at least 2 or 3 memos to the EMS squads saying, hey, who's your current members? Because we need to delete some, because I'm running out of space. And I'm not in a position to get another licensing fee if I have members on there that are not active. So I'm getting rebuttaled out of that, because again, I
Why aren't
asked
we
for
paying
this.
it out of EMS?
Yeah, that's,
Out of the revenue they're generating instead of paying it out of this? That should be separate.
Again, gentlemen, that was done by my predecessors.
Yeah.
I have no clue why we have that tag for EMS.
if you can get a breakdown of the dispatches that come through there, how many are for OEM, how many are for EMS?
Well, I can tell you OEM right now is 65. So we have 65 calls currently.
And that, out of how many total?
Oh, I'd have to get you that total number, but every EMS dispatch that's being sent out in this township is through e-dispatch that we pay for.
For all the squads?
Yes,
I'm sorry, say that again?
for all the squads.
How many?
I couldn't, whatever, if, as many EMS calls there are in this township this year, that's as many e-dispatches there are for EMS.
Okay.
Because they all come through e-dispatch for us.
And the only item that was charged to communication maintenance was to Motorola Solutions?
That was for the mobile radio.
Right.
For the vehicle that we purchased. The Explorer that we purchased through the Hazmat Trust Fund needs a radio, so we purchased the radio.
Why wasn't it transferred from the other vehicle?
Because the other vehicle is still going to be in service. The Escape is going to Sean Brennan.
Yeah, but
What about the other vehicle?
the one that's being taken out of service.
The Durango, that equipment.
Excursion.
No, the Excursion.
Well, either radio, the radio went out of, I do believe, either EMS or PD gave us that 1250 radio. They gave it to us to borrow. So I don't know if they want that back, then I'd be short a radio.
Do they want it back?
I didn't want to take that chance where I said it was, let
So
me
you
have the
just
radio
went ahead
back.
and bought a new radio? That's a problem. We have radios that can be used.
Well,
Obviously, whether it came from PD or EMS, it's a township radio.
right.
They're not using it, so why wasn't that just rolled into the new vehicle?
Well, right now I have I understand what you're saying, but right now I have all the vehicles with radios in them, and they're all still active. So I understand once I de-escalate a vehicle, decommission a vehicle, to take that radio out. But then again, I have the rack body truck without a radio right now, that's using a portable. I have the bus that we just got without a radio. I understand that,
But didn't we buy all portables for everybody?
not everybody, just the
Main coordinators,
Yes.
which are the ones driving those vehicles most of the time,
Well,
right?
no, I have volunteers that drive those vehicles.
This year, you've had a
Yes.
volunteer drive that vehicle?
Yes. I've had volunteers drive the vehicles.
And then, what's the increase in training and education?
Training and education went up because we had the EM1 class this year. There's an EM2 class coming up.
And what are we getting out of that?
Well, if it's held here, we get free seats. And I'm working on that now to get free seats for that. And
But we are holding it here, so
Yes, we held one here. I'm trying to get EM2 to be held here. If that's the case, then guess what? We'll have free seats. So if you want to leave that flat, we can leave that flat.
yeah,
I just anticipated it being out of
that way, yeah.
out of town, but we can leave that flat.
But you also encumbered $2,500 in that line this year after already spending $1,300. So you're overextended by $1,800.
Yes.
What's the $2,500 that's encumbered and not used
The
for?
incumbent $2,500 is coming back. That was for a hazmat class, which again should have been taken out of the Hazmat Trust Fund. That was a mistake. It got taken out of the operations budget. It is going back and voided because the class is not going to be held this year. So that $2,500 is coming back. So it was voided today. You should have it back in the budget.
Great.
Again, next year when we have that class, it will be coming out of that hazmat trust budget because that class is not being held here.
Who's in the free seat for the M1 class?
The M1 was John Cordell this time. And I opened it up we had 2 seats, but I only had 1 taker. So Joe Allen has been very kind to give us at least 2 seats for his EM1 course, and it's a great location. And I am working with the state to get more classes held here because it's a central part of the state, and they're all for it.
When I talked to him, he definitely wanted to continue that classes.
Absolutely.
Here,
I'm trying to get them for the EM2 class for the next level, so.
so, right. So 504, we're changing to back to the 2000.
And the other line, the 610 line, the communications equipment line,
Mhm.
that was, again, overextended because we got some equipment for the radios, the portables, since now we have turnout gear, we needed you know, the holders to go outside the turnout gear, and that should have came out of, again, that should have came out of the hazmat trust fund, but it came out of this year's budget line. That's why it's overextended. That was a mistake on that accord.
So all of the money?
Not all of them.
Looks like there's $2,600 either paid or encumbered.
Yes.
Do these charges need to be reapplied to the OEM trust?
Well, I do believe so. If it's overextended, we'll just take it out of that hazmat trust fund to make it zeroed out.
The ones that are encumbered, we could definitely switch over, but if there's any that we paid, then we'll just have to move money over and
Okay.
reimburse the current fund.
And then you have a request to buy radios.
Yes, again, moving forward, I only have 4 coordinators with radios, and like I said, I got I got volunteers out in the field that can't communicate except for one channel. And these radios now are at least 3 years old, so if they start to break, I need a surplus to give out a new radio. Plus, if there's a major disaster, I'd like to have a couple of radios on hand where I can give administrator, the executive branch a radio that can use in the field so they can listen to unified communications.
What are the mobiles for?
The mobiles, again, moving forward for replacement, but again, I put that in there. It doesn't have to be this year's budget line, but the mobiles are not, the handhelds, I would absolutely request. The mobiles, we could extend that, I could resubmit next year for them. We're pretty good with the mobiles now.
And then the truck.
The truck, guys, the truck. I have a 2002 GMC beer truck that's probably end of life, maybe 10 years ago. Everything dry rotted on it. If I pull it out of the annex to take it to a big hazmat call, I've called certified at least 3 times to have it towed. So that's a heavy duty wrecker tow. So my thinking moving forward, if I could get a smaller UTV, like a small utility truck, like an electrical panel truck or a plumber's truck that they use, you see them with the enclosed boxes, I could put everything that's in that big, as I call it, a beer truck, into that smaller truck, and we will have a brand new truck for the foreseeable future for at least 10 to 12 years. Again, I don't like to use that big truck because, again, it laid dormant for so many years that if I need something to be taken to that scene, big equipment, I'm afraid it's not going to make it to a scene, and honestly, it shouldn't be roadworthy. It's been laying so long.
All right. Can you provide me a list of all the vehicles that OEM has?
Absolutely.
And their condition, mileage, and the description?
Radios. I will do a full inventory count for you with radios and trucks and mileage and years, and get it right over to
Number
you.
of responses that they've been on?
Yes. Well, like I
Per
said,
vehicle.
like this year, we've done 65 calls.
Yes, no,
So-
I mean per vehicle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll have that breakdown for you. Give me a week or so, I'll get that all.
All right, do you have call sheets?
Yes,
Or like
I do it.
Who responded and all that stuff?
Yes, I do an incident report on every time we go out, the trucks that we use, and the members that are there.
Okay. All right, that is all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gents. Have a great day.
See ya. Purchasing.
Purchasing? Oh, no. Yeah. Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how's it going?
Swell. Salaries and wages for assistant.
I kept it that way for your request. So she's lower right now,
Oh, okay.
but that's, I guess, what she was originally supposed to be at. I'm not sure. That I'm not sure.
All right.
That one I'm not. We can talk about it.
Yeah. Overtime.
Haven't even touched it.
Yeah. Any foreseeable need for it?
No, unless there's some kind of giant project. No, not at all.
All right.
So,
Can we zero that out?
It is.
He did zero it out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Never mind.
We got so many sheets here. You look at,
Yeah.
depending on which one you're looking at.
Sorry.
Sorry.
All right.
generally straightforward.
I was going to say, yeah, everything's relatively flat.
And there was just a change with those copiers that we switched with the police department, and that's why that 6,000 came off the first line and went down to the maintenance line.
Right.
So, and then again, if they can not use color all the time, that shouldn't go up that much.
You get a report on that, or can
We
we
should
keep
now.
tabs on that?
Well, we should now because I get it in the bills, but we weren't with the HPs. We actually had to actually physically go to it.
Okay.
Now I'll have it on the bills. So.
So, not much to do with this. Good, Ethan.
I'm just looking at what we spent here.
We didn't spend all the printing budget, but I'm not sure. I can't tell what we spend in terms of printing through Unidex. I have no way to predict it. The average was around 16,000 a year for 4 years. So I didn't want to reduce it because I probably could have, but I'm not sure what we actually.
Like, what is that actually covering? That's covering
That's
the,
all.
the,
Like
the cost every time we
forms.
print a paper, or
No, forms, stuff like that. Like we print forms for you guys down there, 3, carbon copy forms, envelopes,
Right.
stuff like
Printed
that. That's that printing line. I just can't, I have no way to tell, is there going to be a big order from clerk? Is there going to be a big order from community development? I'm not really sure. That's why I didn't drop it. Otherwise, I probably could have. Depending on who's using electronic stuff, who's not printing anymore.
well, I think every year we're trying to get more and more paperless, so I think that hopefully will.
Right,
But
but the
one
only-
thing with switching our sewer bills, don't they come, aren't we going to be having them print a form for us, and then we print them out? How's that work?
Well, that's covering the sewer budget.
Are you sure? Because they may come to me. Because then I have people come to me too and say, "You do
Yeah, I think
printing?"
that
But-
printing was.
We
gonna
addressed
come
that yesterday, I
Yeah.
think, right? Wasn't
Yeah,
that in?
I think it's coming out of the tax and sewer budget
Yeah.
when they ordered that stuff.
I remember seeing a line item yesterday, I think. I think I remember seeing a line
It was
item
more
yesterday
so
for the
just
tax
Yeah, that
bill
was
printing.
reduced.
Said zero
Yeah, that
down on like
reduced
what I
that line
actually
item.
Correct.
did, and it was really hard for me to kind of figure out
But this
what
line
comes out
item
of
is
it.
for everybody else in town, pretty much.
So whenever we need new forms and
Pre-printed forms
folders
from,
and,
court
right,
or-
Yeah, that
It's
comes
for
out.
So stop getting
pretty
forms,
much
Jim.
everybody.
I will.
Sleeves for your uniform construction code.
Right. We get those cheap.
All right.
Yeah, there's nothing else to really look at.
All right.
Other than that.
Good job. Thank you.
What about capital?
Well, that's the copier program.
Yeah, standard copier program, just same as we've been doing. So
And you tightened that up from what Estita had in place, right?
yes, I actually
Didn't
went.
she budget like 70,000 a year?
A
something
little
like
bit more than that, yeah.
And we had some left, but no, she didn't do it every year.
No,
Oh, I thought you,
No.
it was projected for every year. It doesn't necessarily mean she spent it every year.
And I think she tried tying it into MCIA years because
She did.
being equipment. So
okay.
She would encumber like the 75,000 and then leave it until she needed it, and then as people needed a new printer or a copier, we would buy
Something's
one.
broke, yeah.
But there was times where she never even spent it because everybody's copiers were fine, and we were able to just roll it into another year.
Yeah, I know that the manager's copier needs to probably be replaced because it keeps breaking. And he was telling me it's like the end of his life mileage-wise. So maybe one to look at. But I think everything else, we should be all right.
They don't really last long, honestly.
From what I understand, I guess it's how much you print. You know,
Right.
how much runs like a car, how much runs.
It's how many staples you throw through the scanner that break it all the time that create the problems.
Yeah.
Trust me, because the guys are in my office like once a week. Because we have multiple people scanning old documents that were never scanned originally, and when you scan a stack of 100, and in the middle they forget to pull out those two that were stapled together, we ruin the copier. Great.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
If Krista's, and then Krista's extension.
I don't know it offhand.
Just call Joe. You say that out loud.
Enough for this. The mic's pick up.
Yeah, it's all right. Let me see, get it.
Okay, we'll take a quick break.
Sure, what do you got?
Chocolate chip muffins.
Yeah, that's all right, thanks. All right. Well, if we can keep cranking away.
Yeah, I was almost gonna say, we'll bang out finance or anything.
Yeah, we could. Where's Fire Bureau? You should text Andy, you're ahead of schedule too. Any of these you think are gonna take long?
I don't think so.
Alliance, Fire Bureau, Manager.
I don't have mine.
You don't have yours?
Usually Melissa compiles it, so I just assumed, but
She had told me that you had said that
I
you
was
wanted
saying, I
to
didn't
do
see it in there.
I didn't.
Okay. Well, if you want, tell me the percentages. I mean, I think I prepared the salaries with just 2%.
Yeah.
And then it would just be the O&E that, you know, we'll work on it together. We'll get it done.
Okay. Speaking of copier guy, there he goes. To the rescue. Lou, you wanna do finance?
Sure.
Denied. Oh, sorry.
Pardon?
Denied.
Yours pretty flat too, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, as far as my departmental budget goes, salaries are just basically, you know, my TWU members, their contractual salary increases, and the unclassifieds were also allowed a 2% salary increase allowance. So that would be what is changed in salary and wages. And O&Es, you know, pretty flat this year. The $4 difference is basically a rounding
Shop that
difference.
Yeah.
Credit card fees have stayed pretty flat. We have our GAN law books, our memberships to TCTA and GFOA. Once the assistant finance officer hopefully passes the CMFO exam next year, we'll get her registered with the GFOA, and but yeah, my operating budget's pretty flat and predictable.
Okay.
So there are a few of the other departments that, cost centers that I oversee, Audit Services, Community Services Act, which is the Kelly bill, Capital Improvement Fund. We're budgeted at the same levels as 2019. There were no anticipated changes for those yet.
Okay.
Deferred charges, we finally had the last installment of 5-year special emergency for master plan updates. So that was, that finished 2019, so it's a $9,000 decrease, but a decrease nonetheless. I did provide the manager and township manager with some other supplementary documentation in regards to the insurance assessment for our general liability. There's an anticipated 2% increase from the joint insurance fund this year, which rounds out to a little less than $40,000. The health insurance amounts that were included in the budget currently are with employees that are taking it, that are subscribed to our insurance as of, I believe, as of the end of September, but with the 2020 premium rates provided by state health benefits. Those numbers will be rounded out at the beginning of next year once we've settled if there's been any add or deletes from that roster, and if there's any new employees that we have to provide insurance for. Statutory Social Security costs will be adjusted towards in next year once we finalize where our salary and wages are going to be for the year. We did get our 2020 billing for PFRS and PERS. PFRS is an increase of a little bit less than $219,000 for this year. Surprisingly, PERS is a decrease of about $81,500. So that was a nice decrease to get in the last first decrease, I'd say, in about 4 or 5 years.
Any idea what caused the decrease?
No.
Is it from retirements?
Possibly retirements, or that's
Replacing with lower
replacing with lower
salaries
salaries
and
and
not having a
whatnot.
big contribution?
The manager and deputy manager were provided with a breakdown of debt service. The increase to on the appropriation side is a little bit less than $400,000, which is good. There are increases to principal and decreases on bond interest and note interest. We received a very favorable rate for our ban that we renewed at in October, so with a decent amount of premium. So as with all amortization schedules, as the principal goes up, the interest tends to go down. And we did take on our 2019 MCIA deal that was closed this year, so that new principal and interest will be there for the 2020 budget. But a net lower increase in debt service than in past previous years. Obviously, our bond anticipation note is sitting around $26 million. Wish every effort to pay down more principal existed in the budget, but you know, we're hoping to roll this ban into permanent financing in the next 2 years, as it try to make it as budget neutral as possible. And the reserve for uncollected taxes, as it stands in your J sheets, is a little over of an increase in $500,000, but as the appropriations decrease during the managers and the governing bodies hearings, that number will decrease. I'm anticipating that number to, you know, hopefully we can get it as, you know, flat as possible, so we don't have to worry about that being an issue on the appropriation side. But I think that pretty much covers some of the ones that finance oversees as far as cost centers. And utilities and bulk purchases, we're gonna true up to actual at the end of the year, do an analysis of that. So,
Do you know how that's tracking since we signed up with that EMEX group
I'm sorry.
for the utilities, for gas and electric, that EMEX? Do you know how we're tracking for the year?
I mean, I know we keep a spreadsheet in my office, so I can just take it and analyze and
Right.
compare to when we switched over to see what the pricing was in previous years versus where we're at now. I could definitely look into that for you.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
That's all I got.
Finance in a nutshell.
Perfect, thank you.
Have we made contact with?
Pardon?
Have we made contact with any of our next
I
budget
can.
people?
Oh, that's what I meant to do.
I text
I
Bob.
sent the,
Extension.
extension. Then Pat called me to yell at me because she found my screw up on the county taxes. I was like, no, please don't.
I should bring my
speed dial one. All right, should we take bets? Is my son gonna pass today?
Yeah.
I don't know. $10:30 is his text. Messed up. Read about this real ID for your New Jersey driver's license.
Not a lot.
Like, what is it? Sometime in 2020.
You're gonna have to have that to get on a plane or something.
Yeah.
Good job, New Jersey. Way to be, you know.
Well, there's only certain locations that you can get it at. Like, you have to schedule an appointment because they're rolling it out slowly. So I'm like, all right, well, what do I do with my son's license now? Like, I have to go get him a license, assuming he passes, so.
There we go.
Hello.
So what, so you have to get them a real ID now?
Well,
Or
I would like to
you have to
if
get
I
them,
could, but
right, so you don't have to do it again.
Yeah. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, we're ahead of schedule.
I was gonna come down early and then I'm like, I don't wanna be hovering, so
Yeah, that's all right.
here I am.
Fire away.
All right, so I have a supplemental page. I don't know if you have copies of it from, did you copy that, Lou, or no?
Which sheet was
The
that?
one with the list. I have it. I'll give it to you then.
Yeah, and then I could provide it, probably was.
Here, I have it for everyone.
printed out.
Although you and Alexis will have to share. Here's one.
Thanks.
Here's one for you, Jim.
Thank you.
This is mine. It just gives like an overview. Okay.
Right before seniors.
So do you have any questions for me, or should I? Explain anything
To the right
to you
sheets
regarding?
here.
Okay.
Hold on just a moment.
Wait, Lou, you sent them the revised one? Do they have
I
the
believe so, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Anything that was,
That we
where
did.
everything was as of last Friday was what they got.
Perfect.
Specialized expenses. Still have a balance of just under half what was budgeted for.
30, the total was, I think, 30, same as this year,
30,700.
700, yeah.
Yeah, and there's still a
Well, there
balance.
shouldn't be half. I think there's like
It's
a
just
little-
under half,
Yeah.
12,000.
Yeah.
Is
So
that-
what happens is, a lot of times last year was just a mess that I inherited, but
Yeah.
then this year I'm trying to spend everything, but I also go for a lot of free programs. So sometimes things I'll put in there's a grant available, like mental health first aid or
Okay.
suicide stuff, prevention stuff. So a lot of stuff I do, I wind up getting for free. So sometimes I will come under, but then when those grants aren't available, I may not.
Okay,
But my projection is to be spending everything that I have on prevention that's available, so it's just still kind of new to me, coming up with like what's free, what's out there, and then having the rest to spend, if that makes sense.
yeah. Luke, should that amount be broken out into separate? Yeah, like, under specialized expenses, she has an explanation outlining different amounts. And one of them, just for example, is training and education.
Sure, I mean, we
Should
can,
that be under
we
the
can
separate
definitely
line?
take your number and apply it to the
Proper
difference
accounts.
of accounts. I mean, not because we've always done it this way. Yeah, we can definitely,
Throw a dollar in his jar.
So like, you
Generic.
were saying like subcategories?
Yeah,
Yes,
so when we
absolutely.
budget,
I'm
there's,
fine with that, but I don't know that I like the categories that I have. Some of them are like, I think there's one like office expenses or something, like, I mean, some of them
They're-
just don't pertain to me.
sure,
But they're
So
standard across
should-
the township.
yeah.
Oh, they are. I'm
Yes.
wondering where they came from, and I'm like, what, it's kind of,
So we can move
Oh,
those around.
I got it. So those stay the way they are because everybody has them.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no moving them or
Yep.
changing the title. Okay. That's why I think
training
I
was-
wind up going under, but the training I could put.
That was one that jumped out at me.
All right, yeah, so
And-
I'll see. So you want me to try to put them in proper categories if I can?
Well, look and
Yeah,
divide it up
you
that
and
way.
I could work with it.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I know it came up this year, when we do the temporary budget about front-loading your budget because you
Yeah.
have a lot of,
Yes.
We spoke about it. I got
That's- you know what,
post-it
I'm
notes
glad
all
you
over
I
brought
just
the
want to
desk
make sure
about
we
it.
remember that.
And I'm glad you
Temporary.
brought that up. That's another reason I didn't spend all my money, is because you figure with the schools, they're done. Like, everything we're gonna do together is planned by March or April. Now, I had to keep going to Lou, and then some things I passed on because I didn't have the
Right.
budget. So if I can front load it, like, a lot of that will be spent through the schools, which is where it should be, you know,
Okay.
most of my prevention. So that, I'm glad you said that, because that was another
Done.
issue, is for spending them.
I just updated the temporary budget.
And then this list kind of like just supplements to what I have planned for 2020.
And then this, the Alliance grant, is that the actual numbers? Because I know they were talking about decreasing it.
Was that, because they run like a fiscal year, so that's
Yeah.
July 1st, so how do we work that into this? Is that like as of the July 1st?
Right, the how we budgeted in the we budget the match for the grant, so that when we do get the paperwork from the county, and then we do the chapter 159, we basically take where we budgeted the match and move it from grant match over to Alliance grant match.
So we did that here when
Yes, we
met.
did.
Okay,
So that is the actual number, because there was a decrease in that grant.
Yes,
There
I
is
will,
a
I
D,
will,
yeah.
I will review it for accuracy, but I'm almost positive.
Okay.
that You and I looked at it together.
okay.
That's what it should be, but we will double check.
And the grant is submitted, I did it, it's finished. So I don't know if you want to know anything about that, but here it is.
Okay. Okay. We got copies of it already.
Yeah, I mean, you don't, because I just sent it to the county
Oh,
to
we did
review,
that
and then
one.
they're gonna send it to the state, because it's a new process and a new grant cycle, and they did everything completely differently. So I've been working on this for like a month. So, this is going to be, I'm meeting with Lou at 2, and then I'm mailing it officially, but it's been emailed to the county, and everything checked out so far.
I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I have
You're good.
nothing
Very
else.
simple.
Okay,
All right,
well, thank you for your time,
thank you.
and Lou, I'll see you at 2. If you
You
need
got
to
it.
change it, I'm here all day, so
No,
just
I
if you
think I'm
want.
pretty light
You're
today.
packed until...
No, I'm actually surprisingly pretty light today.
All right, well, reach out if you want me earlier, okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Krista.
Thanks. Come on up.
You're on a roll.
Good morning. I already texted Andy.
I just did too. Get over here. Let's go.
Get beat up. Thank you.
So a lot of what I get you is really the same stuff as kind of what you had before, except the statistics in the back have changed to give you the updated numbers, just where we're at this year and in comparison to past years and so on and so forth.
There. You're hanging this way. For an increase in part-time wages, was that?
Yes, there's two in the salary that we're looking for increase in part-time wages due to the increasing of the farms. We're still trying to get the farms done, as well as the addition of little, not so much Farmingdale, but I'm sure that's going to overroll there a little bit. I don't think we've used anywhere near our full allotment of part-time budget this year.
No, you haven't.
But
That's why.
that's because we only hired Rob I think he came right after the budget was approved, so that would have been like June when we got the additional part-timer. Doug's hours were back a little bit this year because of his workload at his full-time job, so he wasn't here quite as much as he wanted to be. So we're anticipating that they're going to be here more to assist us, especially with public education and of course getting the farms completed. So that's why we're asking for an increase based on what their hourly rate is and putting in 26 hours per week each of those inspectors.
You said Doug?
Doug Fruit, he's part-time. So they're both under, he's inspector of public education.
All right.
And what is driving your overtime?
It's really the on-call hours, as well as, obviously, we never know what to expect as far as them getting called out to incidents. We've been out to 40 so far this year, and they vary from 2 hours to, it could be 3 or 4 hours, depending on what the incident and what time of,
40 year-to-date?
40 calls year-to-date, call-outs. Some of those were daytime calls during the regular business hours. I don't have the exact numbers to how many were after hours.
Okay.
And there is, obviously, some of that overtime is doing some public education around the heavy time of the year, the Fire Prevention Week, Fire Prevention Month, because we're out there, trying to promote and take advantage of the national advertising and so forth and so on. So
After-hour permit inspections that we have to do.
Do you have a lot of those, or?
We do. If they're after hours, the fee increases. We accommodate that. It goes from, if it's a permit inspection for a cooking event, instead of $54, we're getting charged $100 for after hours. We change the ordinance. the fees
Is that
in the ordinance.
separated out somewhere in your statistics?
I could probably get that number, but it's...
Is that something you can run in spatial?
No, I'd have to do it manually.
We could probably do a report on the type 1 permits, and like they're separated between 4 different types, so we can see how the type 1 permits be issued.
And then what's the fees for those
Yeah.
permits?
So
They divide it
it can
out.
be done.
Okay.
Yeah, so if it's an after
Wouldn't be bad
hours-
just to see how many after-hour ones we're doing, to kind of say, okay, well, we did, $20,000 in overtime, but we also collected, 100 permits that were $100 instead of $50.
The problem is, to be perfectly honest with you, some of those after-hours permits end up being free ones for like the town events or stuff like that. So,
Would you have that info as
Yeah,
well?
it'll be broken down. So any permit that gets issued, it'll get broken down and who gets broken there, issued to.
like Holiday, we don't charge $100 per permit for the cooking because we're doing 6 on site. So they're paying us $54 for each one of those, but we're there and take care of those in a minimal, and the guy's not really getting paid any additional overtime because he's there for Howell Day anyway. So, those are, so, kind of making money on those a little bit.
Can you, real quick, how many hours and days a week are the part-timers working?
Usually 3 days a week, and a work day, 7 or 7.5 hours, depending on when they actually get here, because sometimes Rob gets here and he's out the door at 8:30. He's already going out.
They're coming from their other full-time gig. They're maybe getting here at 9 o'clock
Yeah.
once they get out of their full-time job.
Okay. Right down to the
What's that?
penny on the, pretty close on their operating, spent to date.
Yeah. Under your equipment maintenance, you have car washes listed. We have a general account that we're pulling that from, so you can remove that from your list. I'm sure it was an oversight.
Wasn't aware.
Yeah, it's all under one
Okay.
account, because we have every department
Yeah, I know. They're
charging
pretty
a
good.
few
Yeah,
bucks
yeah. That would make the
at
whole
different
difference.
rates, no less.
Really. Okay.
Some people are shining wheels, some people don't.
So how much would you like to remove from that line item?
He already reduced it, so we'll leave that flat.
What's the communications maintenance line item?
Repairs usually of stuff going on with our radios in our cars and or Knox box issues that we've been trying to eliminate.
We
We
repair the
have-
Knox boxes?
Yeah, yeah. Or in our vehicles, not
Oh,
not in,
okay.
you know. It's also going to, last year I actually replaced a radio out of that money because of needing of repairs or to the point where, I mean, I'm running radios that are 15 to 20 years old and they're just not they're not maintenance, there's no parts for them. Motorola doesn't support them anymore, you know the deal. It's just like, so,
Do you use the radios that much?
yeah, responding when we're going to calls and stuff.
Okay. I don't know how much was done by cell phone versus.
Yeah, well, it's,
It's the same thing if they, when they go to release their Knox box, they're releasing via the radio. Some of them, depending on the age of our Knox box in our cars, we see if they're gonna get released via the radio, or if it's gonna get released manually, it's still documented, over the air that they released their Knox box key with the return
Okay.
security purposes.
The revenue that you're collecting, of all the lines, it seems like the smoke alarm inspections are tracking the lowest. Any reason?
the only thing I can think of there is that it's, is the amount of homes being sold in town has changes, because we don't drive that, other than when they walk in the door.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had any thoughts on it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I actually put this together to compare it to last year, that it was off that much, but, yeah, other than, I mean, we've been busy, but not packed. Summertime wasn't like it was last year, where we had no room to do anything, and we were out like 3 weeks out on inspections, so
Okay.
it was less this year, but, it's the only thing I could think of is just not the home sales just aren't occurring, whether people aren't leaving or they're just not buying.
Okay.
Interest rates have gone down, so maybe things will change around. I don't really know.
And then also, I just wanted to make sure 2020, we're starting to take over Farmingdale,
Yes.
and we'll be collecting an additional estimated $12,000 in revenue and not adding any staffing for that.
That is correct. There's no plans or no need to
All right.
staff it. And again,
Is everything in line for that? I know you were,
I'm still waiting for the state to say okay or not okay. I
Okay.
emailed the attorney at the state level, and he said, we're getting to it. So I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't.
Have our computer programs been updated yet?
Yes, spatial data has added the instance for Farmingdale. We actually have to, it's two separately running instances of spatial data. So
We
that's
can't
the only.
merge them together?
Can't merge it
Oh,
together.
because the block
We
and
match
lots
block
will-
and lots.
Right.
So that's the biggest problem. And I'm hearing rumblings that Farmingdale may be looking at switching over their construction. And, well, they have to, because they're using the state system now. That ends June 1st.
Getting rid of that?
So they have to, the state is.
Really?
They're not paying for it anymore.
Oh, way
So
to get
now
rid
the
of your
locals
free
have
thing.
to.
Awesome.
Yeah. So now the locals have to do it. And so they're debating on whether they're going with Edmunds or spatial data for a program that will encompass more of the town. So there may be a situation where it comes along and they may move spatial data out of our servers and into theirs, and which is going to be a little bit harder for us then, because, so I don't know how this is going to work. Just, right now it's just talk, so. But yes, we're all set up, I've been in process
Or do we
of
just
building the
explain
database.
Oh, we can't.
Like
We can't because the block and lots are the same. So we could do what they're doing now, is just create a separate login, but it's not like it's
Right.
at that point it's totally separate.
And there's other issues that come along with it, because now you're not you're not hard-lined into the network, and I don't know what problems that's gonna bring for them to be able to log in from their borough hall for the girls to operate.
Yeah, because
you
they're
know,
only
with-
going to have seat licenses. They're not going to have enterprise licenses. So they don't need it. So they're probably only going to have one, maybe two seat licenses.
Okay.
But that just brings a whole gamut of other issues to make that operate, because
Now-
right now we're set up on our server.
So who has access to that on our side?
Just, well, yeah, just us, Glenn and John. I mean, I'm sure they can allow more.
Just Fire Bureau?
Just Fire Bureau right now, yeah. And then we have the mobile apps that we can log into it from mobile too. So when we're out on the road doing, like we do today, we can
Inspections.
do inspections right from the mobile app. And they're doing it in the Farmingdale instance, not the Howell, so it's just a learning curve, that's all.
All right. I have nothing else. You? You good? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you ever get anywhere with,
No. In fact, I'd like to send out a letter before now, because I know they're working on their budgets, but
And I just,
You could have just called me back and I would have taken a note.
wait over.
Are we doing police or?
well, once the, I have police, EMS, dispatch,
text me if you
chart of accounts in the booklet. How they want to do it. And I don't recall Andy sending me any kind of supplementary documentation that itemized what his O&E was.
Okay.
Might have to do his again. We need a. Is he on his way?
I told them, said you're up. Go just pass him, I'll be right back. Text me if he walks in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Have to be, and oh, by the way, 2017.
What'd you say?
27 pay period year, 2021,
2021 is?
2021.
What do we do with that?
We adjust everybody's, we have to adjust the frequency on Prime Point for everybody, for just the civilian employees, because the police are set at 24. But it's all the, civilian. Change it to 27 for the year and then change it back at the end, to change back to 26 for
So everyone's gonna
2022.
get less money per pay.
Yeah, your salaried employee, you're just getting it over 27 pays instead of 26. And
Right.
you're still gonna get the, why are you taking money? No, I'm not taking money.
Did we ever figure out how we can start paying behind? Can we do it after that year?
I
we
can
gotta
probably
get-
research and find,
gotta get rid of that.
find out how
That
to,
is so problematic.
yeah,
I know the county did it.
okay,
County switched.
switched.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I'll email.
They had to do something about paying ahead, where they basically said you could either, they gave them an option
Mhm.
of just not taking a paycheck for a month
Oh.
to get onto that cycle,
Mhm.
or they actually paid them an extra pay
Mhm.
and then said that they had to pay that back before they leave or retire or something like that.
Okay.
So you're carrying a number.
So you said Monmouth County switched?
I believe Monmouth County switched. Yeah, that's what they
Okay.
told me.
I'll email them. I'll email Craig and see if he was
Yeah.
involved in how they did it.
Like I said, I don't
Mhm.
know, for sure, but that's what some of their employees told me they did.
Mhm.
And that way they could get on that normal pay cycle of, you get paid Friday for not that week, but the previous 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Because then that'll then line up all of our overtime payments with our sick and our
Sure.
all that stuff. Because this is crazy.
Then if somebody leaves, they're gonna have to. Oh well, hey, you left in the middle of the week and you owe us back because we overpaid you.
Right. That's I don't know how we ever got to that. Yeah, because when do we get paid?
This past Friday.
So the 22nd was a paycheck.
Yes.
So then the 6th, the 20th, and the 20th will take us through, what, the 31st?
Yes.
Or, how do we do that? Or do you have to issue another pay?
To fix it, we'd have to, it's gonna, the pays are gonna be 6/20 and then the January 3rd.
Right, but then doesn't January 3rd have to cover from, what does that cover? The 1st through the 10th? Which is going to be a short pay?
Well, no, unless we change it, it's gonna be the full 2, it's gonna be the full 2 weeks.
Right, but I thought that was the whole problem, because you're not technically getting the full 2 weeks out of anybody. Right? Like if you're paying on the 20th,
Mhm.
you're paying through the 27th. At this point, right? Because you're paying a full week ahead now.
I'd have to verify with Kristen. I don't want to speak incorrectly.
Yeah, I'm almost positive. So then the 30th and 31st, when do you pay for those? Do you still get paid for those on the 3rd, but then you just take money out of one line item
Yes, I
account
see,
and the other
yeah.
line item account?
Yes, we would probably have to split charges.
Which if that's the case, then why is this even a problem? Because if you can split it over the year, right? Because that was always what I was explained, that every year you gain an extra day into our pay ahead cycle, because it used to be Thursday, it used to be Wednesday that we got paid ahead till, right? So if that's the case, then it shouldn't matter if you can split that paycheck, half of it or 2 days of it gets charged to the 2019 account, and the next 7 days get charged to the 2020 account, right? So then it shouldn't.
We'd have to do a breakdown of that.
Yeah. But you're gonna have to do that anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, in 2021, there will be 27 Fridays where we get, unless we change it prior to, there'll be 27 Fridays that we
In 2021.
in 2021.
We got paid for the 17th, which was the Sunday before we got paid through the 30th, which is the Saturday after we got paid.
Right, so we're a full pay week ahead, but our overtime is not. Our overtime we just got paid for is what? 3rd to the 16th? That 2 week period?
It's paid after the fact, yes.
Isn't
Right.
the overtime paid for the dates that the timesheet covers? So whatever that 2 week period that the timesheet covers, the following pay period, you would get paid
That
for
money.
that money.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Right, so that's technically correct, but,
Right.
but
Now
the
we
paying
need to
ahead is just the stupid
switch
part.
that.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many people would be like, oh my God, I can't
Yeah.
survive without that
Yeah,
paycheck.
it's that.
I'm sure you would hear that, but-
Oh, yeah. We get through it.
I wouldn't care.
Or just switch everybody.
I mean,
to
Lex
20
might care. She might not be able to pay
Switch
her,
everybody to 24 pays and
her hoopty.
be done with it.
No, I'm just so good with my budgeting.
I mean, I think the only thing I don't like about the 24 pays is that it's on a different day.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it
Yeah.
all goes direct deposit.
But you're
It really has no
saying
effect on my life,
For
but
all of us to go to 24, like be on the same schedule as PD.
are they on 24?
Yes.
They did change that,
They're 15 and 30.
and that was a contract.
It was included in the contract. It didn't have to be a contractual item.
But why
Right.
do
It
we
was
have to go to
included.
24 days rather than just fixing what we're paying in each pay period?
What do you mean?
Is that
Well,
the only way to fix what we're
there-
paying?
Oh, I
in
don't
each
know.
pay period?
There's two separate issues that are going on here. The one is the fact that we're paying a week ahead, the pay period. That's number one. And then you have the issue of in 2021 we're 27 pays. So there's technically two issues, if you will.
As far as the 27 days, the easiest solution to that, change the payday for a year.
What do you mean? Change it to a
Why
Thursday
is it an
instead?
issue that
Yeah.
we have 27 pays in 2021?
Because then everybody's salary is divided out by 27 instead of 26. So if you got a $2,000 paycheck
Still
every,
make the same amount.
Yeah,
Right.
When people live paycheck to paycheck, it's,
You understand
right.
that.
So instead of getting $2,000 in your paycheck every week or every 2 weeks, it's now $1,950 because you have to make up that $50 in the extra paycheck. So your paychecks get lower. I mean, now, if you're saying the 22nd, the 6th, and the 20th, so for instance, to get to the other direction, to pay, you would go from the 20th, and then you wouldn't get paid until
To go in the other direction to pay what?
the 17th of January. Like if we wanted to pay behind, like normal business in the world,
Okay.
right? You would get a paycheck on December 20th, and then you wouldn't get your next paycheck until January 17th. And January 17th would cover January 1st through January 11th, in theory. Right?
And what happens to the 22nd through the 31st, or through the 3rd?
That gets paid on the 20th.
Oh, because we're leaving it the same.
Because we're
for
paying ahead,
that
but I'm saying to
Yeah.
get to that pay behind, you have to go almost a month without a paycheck.
But, and the 20th paycheck is gonna cover more than what it would normally cover. On the 20th, we would only be getting paid through the 28th.
Right. That's a separate issue. We probably used a bad month. But let's look at it the other way. Let's say the next paycheck is, we'll start with the 17th. So January 17th. That paycheck will cover the 12th through the 25th, right?
Right.
It's all public, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Because then you wouldn't.
Is it 20 or 21? That's the 20. Yeah. Andy's like 10 minutes after, so.
Damn.
Leap year net, 2020 is a leap year.
Right. So that's why we have 27.
That 5 ways till Sunday is 2020. Several times.
You scan through it, there's 3 months that have 3 Fridays, that's it.
True, but it was never contractual.
January, April, and July.
I think it was.
And then COVID. Into summer. Holy crap.
Time we had the attorneys steering the ship. That got included. and
The unemployment rate?
Yeah, I think she meant minimum wage. I told Andy we were only going to discuss capital if time allowed, but
I keep forgetting to bring in my cert.
Okay.
For my last class. I got it in the mail. For the weekend.
is the volume better?
Yes, I can hear clearly, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
It's very annoying not to be able to hear.
Yeah, you should have said something. We would have adjusted it.
Was I gonna jump up and say I can't hear you?
We're way ahead of schedule today, so we're way ahead of schedule. So,
Well, I heard you, but who's missing?
police department. So I have them coming in early. Because
Gonna be here soon, or
he said he's like 10 minutes away, but
who's here now?
we already did them all. We're ahead of schedule.
Oh, I got you.
As we finished up, we had the next one come sooner. So we
The first day, the OEM people did their day?
OEM did. EMS is part of police, so
Okay.
he has police, dispatch, and EMS.
All right.
They're the only ones that we have left to do. But we did the finance, fire bureau, alliance, purchasing, OEM, and clerk.
You did all that this morning?
Yeah.
That was good.
Yep.
Very fast. I wasn't
The-
ready to move at 9 o'clock, so I said, I gotta go get gas and.
The department heads did a good job keeping things tight, so.
That's good, that's good. First week, that's the best.
Well, you have two choices.
so, but I think any changes that you make need to be, properly, you need to give the right time.
I'm gonna go grab another cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, honey.
Well, they're gonna complain regardless.
Right. And
It's just,
in all reality, you're kind of going to be screwing them over regardless.
Right.
Because in order to make that change,
I mean, if we kept it the same, I mean, Kristen just needs to file maintain everybody reports and change it to 26 frequency to 27. That's really at the end of the day, all she needs to change it to 27, and then at the end of 2020, she needs to change it to 27. Right. So that's one issue, and then the other one is we're paying ahead. So that I need to,
well, I understand it's point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because your overtime gets paid one way, and
Mhm.
your straight time gets paid another. Why not just make them match?
Right.
And when you work overtime, you get paid overtime. That
Yeah,
part makes a lot of
it makes a
sense
lot
to
of
me.
sense. Right. And I think also,
Because they're really paycheck to paycheck. Nobody comes to complain if they're up in arms because they work paycheck to paycheck. Well, switching to what would you do if you're getting a paycheck and then you have arms because they work paycheck?
But your paychecks will be more. But it sounds like the simplest thing for us as a township would be to just go to twice a month, right? Is it the same amount every paycheck?
yeah, I mean, it's your,
So like when do you get paid in
Base.
February?
hmm,
Like in February, what days do you get paid?
the 15th and 28th.
Okay, so the 28th, when you get paid on the 28th, what does it cover?
I think I believe it's I think it's before, I would have to check with Chris.
Like, you understand,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're never
I
gonna
don't think we're
have
paying
that same number of days, right? So is it we basically just take your entire salary and divide it by 24, and that's what you get every time? Doesn't matter?
I think so.
That would be the easiest then, right? And then when you get paid for overtime, you would have to get paid for overtime. Like, what does that time cover? So when you work on the 1st to the 15th,
Right.
is your overtime calculated by week? Is it calculated by 1st to the 15th? So if you get,
I
if the
understand what
15th
you're
is a
saying.
Wednesday,
Yeah,
is that being covered through that Wednesday?
yeah. I would have
Just
to check.
questions
No,
we all
you're-
have to,
no,
I mean,
exactly.
none of this is rocket science. There's
No.
500 plus towns that
No, exactly.
do some form
Yeah,
of this.
sure.
So it's just questions to figure out, I mean, if like the 1st to the 15th is the thing, is the period, on the 30th you get paid for any overtime that would happen on the 1st to the 15th, I would imagine, because otherwise how could you get paid?
Sure.
You can't close it out and
Yeah.
issue checks all in the same day.
And I know Kristen would be
Not
all
work.
for it, because then you go back to just issuing one payroll instead of two.
Right, she wouldn't have to break out the payroll the way that she's doing it right now. Right now, she's just doing like.
Crimey River. I mean, not for nothing, but Prime Point automated that, and POS automated that ridiculously compared to what we used to do.
Oh, yeah, compared to what yeah.
The paper crap we used to do.
Compared to what it was,
Oh,
that
yeah.
doesn't mean it's perfect now.
Sure does.
Better than it was. Yeah, I think time and discussions and plan for it and how we're gonna roll out and make sure we're doing it right, because,
I still don't understand how we're able to do that. You said it's not in TWC.
it's only a PV.
Yeah, but we don't, it doesn't have to be a contract issue.
It wasn't. It only
Right.
became, it became a contract issue because the attorney was the one driving the bus to this meeting.
Yes. Turn your phone. It's also why they're around. Something we need to figure out. I mean, is that something we could just like decree? Does it not be a contract? Right, I'm saying you can just say, do it. Hi, guys. What's up, boss? How are you, sir? How are you? We're heading in, so figured we were texting you, just saying, hey, we're flying.
Yeah, but I had all the meetings this morning back there as well, so I wrapped those up quickly.
Yeah, we just wanted to let you know so you didn't wait.
In fact,
Normal
it's funny because I was thinking, I'm like, I'll give another 15 minutes, I'm gonna call them up or text Brian and see if you guys are ahead or behind schedule, and then boom, I get the text. That must mean you guys are saying, yes to everybody, huh? It's good. Why are you laughing?
We basically just went through and said, all increases are hereby voided, thank you. And there was nothing else to say. I mean, everyone was like, oh, okay.
I get it, except for the PD and
Oh.
community development, right?
Man, mine went down. Everything went down.
My dispatch actually went down.
Almost everything.
Overall, I had to go back to the,
That's it, just
My
one guess?
department went down.
and she just got here, she missed most of it, because we're so far ahead of schedule.
In my department.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Just letting you know.
Certain cost center. Yeah, well, that's because we move people.
My budget, the way it was, presented, it didn't include any of my specific line items, it just had, you know how I have everything itemized? No, I don't think it was a little.
You ruined it.
So I have,
Yeah, there's one slot left.
Rip your laptop off the. Here,
No, I'm gonna move over here that way
I'll say I have one right here with the floor.
in case somebody wants to come in.
We can pop it in the floor. Typical cop. Always gotta have your back to the door. Back to the wall, I should say, right?
So Garrity and Pilecki and Levine, they're gonna be coming in a little bit. I'll be coming in.
Which one, do you want to do that one first, or police first? What-
It doesn't matter, because when we get here, if there's any lingering questions, I figure the reason why I asked you about capital is because obviously that's a significant hit right there. So Dave Levine you guys have the vehicle report that we issued a few months ago, but you can expand upon that a little bit more. If you want to get started on the PD side, let me just pull up my working copy, because I don't know, do you have the breakdown of each line item on there?
No, which,
Okay, I do, I have a working copy up on here. So
okay.
pretty much it's going to, most of the specific items under each line item has remained the same. There might have been slight increases in some of the vendors, which I have up on here.
Because I know I sent you the one with all the employees and all that.
Yes, you did.
set, And then,
Yeah,
and then you sent a copy back to me, and I guess, I didn't see the description. I mean, if you have another version of it,
Yeah, I do.
absolutely go for it.
The one thing I'll give credit from, amongst other things, is that with the salaries, I mean, obviously that would take a tremendous amount of my time to do that. He had that about squared away for me for when he submitted me the first budget back in July or whatever it was.
Yeah.
All of that was on there. I mean, that was a tremendous, I was dreading that. Carlene was pulling records, so little thanks, man. That really saved me a tremendous amount of time.
Makes your job easier, makes my job
Yeah.
just as easier.
Yeah, that way I don't screw it up.
That's pretty much what he said.
Yeah, exactly what you said. I get it. I'm not hating you. I get it. I understand. All right, let me see here. You're going to notice on my budget, not PD budget, things that stick out. Obviously, the increase in officers. And there's a couple other items on there whereas I'm requesting some additional personnel.
Yes.
Before we get into the officers. Okay? So, I might as well just tackle this right now. Couple extra, and I know I kind of mentioned it to you before. What I've been looking at now is, we've been hurting, I'm going to maybe start off talking about some civilian positions. So, one of the civilian positions I have in there that I'm asking for, it's actually part-time, is custodial staff. So right now, obviously, the PD is 24/7. We're only getting custodial staff in after 3 o'clock each day, and not on weekends. So come Monday morning, after Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we're not getting anybody until Monday at 3 o'clock. Now, I know that schedules can be arranged in public works, but we're not getting the quality of service that we should be getting at PD. And I know there's been talk about some other services available.
There's a couple other things that we're looking into with that, but one of the big issues, the titles that you're applying,
Yeah.
we're going to have union issues because of it. So,
Admin assistants?
yeah, that's, something we, even with current positions that you're looking for, aside from these, that's something that we need to discuss.
Right, I get it. I mean, we can always add it, job description as well, correct?
Well, it's still got to be dealt with the union. That's a full-time position. And whether it's supervisory or,
Part-time.
Right, but they're gonna say that you're using part-time.
And we will,
Right.
or I might just, you're just supplementing their staff. Right? I mean, that's what I do with it, almost like my specials, right? So I'm not taking away from any of the patrolman positions, but I'm supplementing the positions. So that's kind of how I looked at it as. But what I was proposing was this, janitorial staff, it could be reduced down to 8 hours a day in 4-hour blocks, right? So the first one would be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., the second one coming in around 4 p.m. and going till 9 p.m. Each day at $15 an hour. On the weekends, it would be reduced to 4 hours each day. It could even be reduced down to 2 hours just to do general maintenance, clean out the trash.
You said the second shift would be what? 4 to
9. It could be adjusted. So originally I had a 10-hour shift, but I knocked it down because the price, just by knocking out those 2 hours each day, the overall annual budget came down considerably down to, I believe it was $35,000, I think it came down to for janitorial service, 24/7 throughout the entire year. As opposed to, I think it was up in the 50s or something like that when I first proposed it. So, and again, I know you guys got, not really my department of public works, I know there's other things that.
Yeah, there's union issues, we'll have to
Yeah,
play with that.
but having somebody under my control there in the police department, a police employee where I can assign them tasks to do when they're not doing maintenance work, I can have them do other things around the building. That's one of the things that I looked at. You know, I'll leave that up to you, but another thing is the outside maintenance. So I had interior maintenance and outside maintenance. It's definitely gotten better, but I was looking to privatize the exterior maintenance of the building, the grass cutting, fertilization of all the grass, and just general upkeep out there, and use that as a private vendor. So I looked at 52 weeks, approximate cost of $250 a week, for a total of $13,000 for the general maintenance of the exterior of the building throughout the year. Now, obviously, during the colder weather, the maintenance is going to be lower, so I just average it out.
What was that total? I'm sorry.
$13,000. That was 52 weeks at $250 a week.
Is that a realistic
That's it.
price? Did you?
It's averaged out, because there's some weeks you're not going to need it because it's not.
Right, but,
Did
I
you
mean,
get
did you talk
quotes?
to any vendors
Yes,
to?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That was
Because
for
obviously when you look at it,
for
there's.
lawn, fertilizing.
Yes. Curb lines being blown and swept. We went to general grass, and just in the PD section. We're going to go to a small section on the side of the building right towards the library. We'll cut off right there. But mainly from, if you look at our building, halfway, walkway going to the additional parking lot, all the way to where the sheds are, the left side. And that would be the grass, fertilization around headquarters, curb lines.
Mulch beds.
Mulch beds, exactly.
But they're going to do the mulch beds.
Yeah. The maintenance of the front of the building as well, the landscape beds that we have out front there as well. And again, whenever I've asked for it, it's been done. But I understand that they have other responsibilities throughout the town, and I know that their manpower is short. So I figured I would just treat this as an additional vendor. Just an idea to float out there. Legal. Our in-house prosecutor right now is part-time. All the things that we're being involved in with Oprah, a lot of things that we're doing in headquarters as far as the body camera, the legal applications of that as well.
Mhm.
And just somebody that my officers can turn to, and also be an assistant prosecutor as well. I don't know how that's going to work out as far as the council.
That's a council appointment.
I get it, but right now, it's part-time. And so we have, Sean Kane is in there only part-time, we don't have a legal staff available to us. The only thing, the best I can do is contact the prosecutor's office. Having somebody that's in-house, that's able to fulfill our Oprah, able to do all the body camera footage, able to provide officers guidance, report review, any of those other decisions that may not necessarily be able to be handled up at this level. What my intention would be if this is actually approved is to solicit possibly an assistant prosecutor that's retiring from the prosecutor's office. That way there's a direct connection between us and them. Right now, the secretary downstairs in the investigation bureau handles a lot of those responsibilities involving the prosecutor's office. This would obviously be a little better resource in order for that to do that instead of the civilian position.
You have this listed as full-time for $75,000. You think that's a,
Realistic number?
yeah,
From a few of the people that I've spoke to in the prosecutor's office, asking about careers after they leave there, that is a number that
that,
would be favorable.
all right.
Because more importantly for them is the benefits
significant increase, though. I mean,
No doubt.
so,
Understandable.
all right, well, let's get into your O and A, because, I mean, the request for 10 officers, do you have some?
So here, over the past 5 years, I've been talking about doing 2 for 1. Right? You weren't here, the previous manager was here when there was I think there was 5 people that retired in 1 year. That was a great application. I would do it. We ended up hiring 8, I believe, that year.
Okay.
Jim, I think you were present here when former Councilman Walsh recommended that we do that, and that turned into just 1 officer with 1 retirement, and then he continued to additional officers.
That was a one-time deal.
Yeah, I was told that was a one-time deal, because it actually, there was, when I was still here, we hired 2 for 1 retirement. I believe it was the first 2
When that was
hires.
initially spoken about, that was going to be the
Okay.
deal going on, and all of a sudden it just turned into 1.
I was there. It was a one-time deal. That 1 2-for-1 deal,
Right, but you weren't there during initial discussions of that.
well, I was there when it was finalized.
Right. Right, things changed between then and then when it was finalized up on the dice. There's going to be 2 officers that have already submitted their intentions to retire this year. One's a lieutenant and one's a senior patrolman.
Okay.
Beginning this year, that's when my generation of officers that were all hired together are eligible to retire. So between now and the next 5 years, you're going to have a significant amount of officers starting to retire. Back in 2009, and I know I beat this to death, we were at 99 officers, right? Overtime was through the roof. We were at 99 officers. We had all of our units intact.
But how is that? Your staffing was so high and overtime was out of control. That's clearly somebody was not doing their job.
So now we're at 90 officers, right? I have $58,000 left in my overtime budget for this year, so it looks like I'm going to be right on par to hit my overtime number.
How many do you have now? 90? 90 or 91?
90.
You're at 90 right now?
90.
Is that with any openings to backfill still or not?
I
Or
have
all the
one to
backfills?
backfill that I'm about to hire, and that's going to bring me to 90.
Oh, that'll bring you to
Yeah,
90.
Bring me to 90. Remember, I still have my books. Technically, going in officer position. So, what I'm looking to do is, if we can start doing that 2-for-1 deal, I'll be comfortable about, and I've said this many times, I included in a report to you, 100 officers is my goal. That's my number. Anything after that, I don't need anymore. Once we hit 100, I'm good. You won't hear another word from me for a request of officers. And now you're going to start having that top number start to balance out, where you're not going to have that significant increase each year.
All right, so you have 90 officers, well, 89 plus the 1 hire that's about to happen. How many Class 2s do you have?
2 are about to retire, so I'm going to be down to 8.
But assuming you're going to replace those 2, of course, that's part-time, so
Correct.
let's call that 10. How many Class 3s do you have?
10.
10. How many Class 1s do you have?
We hired 4 so far.
4. So we're at 114 sworn. Now, back when you were talking, what was that, 1999? When you said you had how many officers?
99.
How many specials did you have then?
10.
There were 10?
Yeah.
Class 2s?
Yes.
No Class 1s?
No questions.
And no Class 3s?
Correct. But I can't use my class 3s. My class 3s are
No, but it's also a workload that is taken off of what was formerly on your patrol staff in the schools.
it's not them, because they're not assigned to investigations or calls. They're strictly to be there as a security element and as an SRO. Because as soon as we have them start handling calls, my 3 other ones handle them. Mazio, Maureen, and Higgins, those 3 police officers, those full-time, they handle the investigations inside the schools. My class 3s are strictly as a security and SRO component inside the schools, not investigations. They handle minor incidents inside the schools, but anything that's.
Which were formerly handled by police officers, regular officers.
Correct.
So
Correct.
there is some reduction in workload by
No
that
doubt.
program.
No doubt. So let me just talk about staffing. And the reason why I'm asking for this is not to assign any other officers to specialized units, right? If anything, maybe add an additional officer under the traffic engineer. But other than that, that was my intention. I don't say that because you said I'm there. You know? I truly don't. But I'm talking about replacing officers back on the squad. Right? So right now, the way that our patrol's set up, let me take a look at some our organizational structure. This will give you a little bit better picture of everything that's going on. So this is what the projection looks like for next year.
Retirements for end of year 2019 or will they for 2020? For the lieutenant and SE officer?
Lieutenant, her last day is May 1st. She starts terminal leave 2020. Yeah, 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, May 1st. She starts terminal leave in February. So I lose her right at the beginning of February. But she's obviously on books until May 1st. Matt Bishop, he's gone March 1st. Gone.
Okay, so it's all for 2020.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So if you take a look at, this is my personnel assignments for next year. There's been one slight modification made on this, whereas when if you look on.
This is already set from all the
All the
submissions
checks
and,
everything, yes.
oh, okay.
So if you look on the operations on patrol, right on day shift, 183, he is actually being put back into training as per some of the supervisors and some other issues that occurred as a result of him going back to the day squad. No big deal, just another officer, in fact, a new officer that's being hired is going to be replaced back into back on the midnights. That drops one of the officers that was given the secretaries back on the days, so it's really not an issue. But if you look at my manning levels right here, so I'm not going to get into too many specifics since we're being recorded, but every day through 2020, most of the time without even vacations being plotted, they're about 1 over minimum manning levels. And so each day, even had each squad lieutenant look at their workload on each particular day. The way that we've done it in the past was that it's just been a set schedule. Here's your manning levels, same thing Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday. Right? There hasn't been any change in any type of manning levels on each particular day. So next year, what we did was in 2020, we had the lieutenants give recommendations on when manpower should be hired on what days, court days, maybe certain holidays. So they're increasing their manning levels on those days, reducing them on others, just to move the manpower levels around so officers can take off and do not significant impact if something falls out. Once February 1st rolls around, all the vacation, all the extra time, all the training is already plotted. Once that happens, once all of those vacation days and training gets plotted, we're basically at minimum every single day the entire year. So what that means is that as soon as somebody calls out sick, automatic overtime. Very tough to send any of my officers to training because obviously I can't switch officer schedules to send them to training, and we made a policy basically we're not going to send somebody to training on overtime. It's not going to happen. I'm not setting that precedent. So what my intention is to do is to start having this buffer back to be reinstalled in each of the squads. We had it years ago, whereas I'll give you this as an example. I know, Brian, I know you're probably familiar with this. Say I'm just going to throw a number out there. On Friday nights, my manning levels are 8 on the evenings, 8 patrol officers, not including supervisors. What happens is I'll have minimum scheduling levels and minimum manning levels. Scheduling levels is on the schedule 10, we can man with 8. So what happens is nobody can take any time off that brings us below 10. But what that 2-man buffer does, a 2-officer buffer does, is if somebody calls out sick, use of personal time, you're not automatically getting hit with overtime. There's a buffer in there. So what starts to happen now is your overtime starts to come down, and now basically all you're doing is moving your overtime into your own need for salary and wages. And I know there's not enough in the overtime addition, we've worked with the same amount of supervisors in patrol since the 80s. I started here in 1990 as a kid, and it's been the same exact way. I can't have what I did this year. I was still able to do it. I'm within, my budget for my overtime is between Memorial Day and Labor Day. I had voluntary supervisory shift coverage, whereas there was always a watch commander and a road sergeant working. So right now, there's only a one supervisor minimum required, because I don't have my supervisors on the road. So that road sergeant is also handling the lieutenant's responsibilities as well. Now, can things be adjusted in next SLA schedule? Maybe. Whereas, my command staff works at 5 to 2. I tried to propose that in the past, and it kind of met some resistance. That would help things out. But in the meantime, the way that we are handling 76,000 calls for service this year, as busy as a PD that we are, I need that 2 officers. Now, if you want to just budget more in overtime and allow me to post that voluntary supervisor overtime every day, that would work as well. But it just can't go on. Supervisors get burned out. They're handling 8 officers on the road and handling watch commander responsibilities as well, because the lieutenants are either off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So with this increase in the officers, this would allow me a couple things. It would allow me to expand my manning and scheduling levels on each squad, to reduce that amount of overtime, and it will allow me possibly, obviously, to open up the supervisor ranks a little bit more. And again,
So you're talking about, if you go to 10, if you schedule 10, how much overtime are you anticipating to reduce from that? Because that's the whole goal, right? The goal is to
correct.
put more guys on the road more often, but when everyone goes out for sick or vacation or training and you're down to 8, you're not now putting a guy on when you get down to 7 and having to put a guy on for overtime, right? So is there any kind of way we can calculate? I mean, is it going to be 50,000, 500,000? What's the generator?
So right now, my patrol overtime shift coverage is the #1 expense as far as my overtime. I would say I could probably get that down at least $100,000 minimum.
What's our increase going to be by putting in 2 guys on every day of the year?
I mean, you have almost $1 million in salary increases in this budget. A vast majority of that is the 10 police officers. To spend that much money to save $100 grand, like,
I get it.
that's,
I understand, but I'm also saying that with the officers that are going to be retiring over the next few years, that's going to start to stabilize. That number is going to start not increasing, because once we hit that 100 officer mark, all the officers that then retire after that, obviously, we're replacing at a lower salary. So that savings comes from that senior officer being replaced with a junior officer.
not always equal, though. I mean, even though it's significantly less salary, now you have the 2 benefits packages, 2 pension contributions, 2 of everything, so.
No, because then the 2, we talked about the 2 for 1.
Yeah.
No, that was stopped at 100 officers. You wouldn't ask for any more. I would be absolutely comfortable at 100 officers.
Okay.
No, I get it. 10 is a lot.
Yes.
I get it. I understand.
Looking at the scheduling, you only have, I don't know the badge numbers and who's who, but you only have 1 listed under K-9, and then I see the 1 sergeant, that's K-9.
Right.
You have more than 2, where are the others?
Right down.
They're assigned to squads?
Yes. Yeah, so.
Okay.
If you look down in services, right? services, you have one canine strictly in services. You have one here, and you have 650 over here.
Okay.
And then you have Bonnaroo up here on evenings.
What
So,
does he do in
The
services?
reason why he's in services is because I have the flexibility to flex his schedule. But he's backfilling in the patrol for the first few months on day shift to reduce some of the, and the reason why I did that is I made it mandatory next year to have 2 officers assigned to Ramtown during school. So Monday through Friday, anytime when school's in session, 2 officers are assigned to Ramtown. Reason being is obviously I have an officer out on 547 in Randolph, which is my own concept, but if something happens, something pops off at the South Campus, it's going to take me quite some time in order to get there.
All right.
So policy now, beginning in 2020, is whenever school's in session, 2 officers are in Ramtown with 1 always being there. 2 officers can't be out of Ramtown. So in order to,
Do we have SROs there
in order to do that,
in Ramtown?
the SROs, we don't have enough to cover every school. So we just do a random scheduling. There's no set random, we just deploy them, obviously to keep any potential threats, not knowing when somebody's going to be there.
2 officers are assigned to outside agencies. Aside from the information sharing, what kind of revenue is that generated? I know you've talked about that in the past.
So, I'll tell you this, the 1 officer that's assigned to the FBI, there's already $100,000 sitting in pre-forfeiture waiting to the system. And he's only been there a year. That is based upon the history of other officers from other departments being assigned there. Marlboro has had a officer assigned to the FBI for 10 years, and they've generated multi-millions of dollars. In fact, they're redoing their entire communication center with asset forfeiture. So his salary each year is being paid for through the FBI.
Okay.
It reimburses through and Captain Rizzo are regular contact with each other about the overtime.
All right. As far as the revenue, I mean, we're expending for the officer to go out. I know we're getting some money back in, but when that's to a dedicated fund that it's not, you've said it many times, can't be used for things that the township should be budgeting for, there's causing a gap there.
Correct. I understand that. And once we do get that revenue in there, that is going to change. I do expend a lot of money out of that forfeiture.
You do. No, I know.
For PD-related items.
But there's also things that wouldn't normally be approved.
Correct.
So,
Right. And once that significant amount of money comes in, that's when we can open up those discussions in order to offset some of the costs.
all right. Any idea when that's,
I have no issue on that whatsoever.
when that's going to occur?
You know what? I will, when Flecky and Rizzo, Flecky and Gary get here, I'll have them, answer any of your questions in regards to
Sure.
some of the communication stuff. I'll step out and call Rizzo.
That's,
And I'll find out for you. But before I did that, I just want to make that clear. Before I even sent anybody to both the Narcotic Strike Force at the county, and that officer that's assigned to the Narcotic Strike Force at the county level is a CSU officer anyway, so he wouldn't be county control as well. Right? So they're actually down 1 officer by me assigning that officer out there, and that was at the request of Captain Rizzo, so that's fine. I'm not even looking to replace that officer. When I decided to send somebody to the FBI for the first time in the history of his police department, I solicited a couple other chiefs who have officers there as task force officers, and they said absolutely, it is plenty of things with the officer's salary, the connections and that they have with us and the federal agency, it goes a long way. And we've seen that already with some partnerships that we did in terms of investigations that we've done.
Sure.
If I wasn't seeing the benefit from that, I promise you that also would.
let's move on from personnel to O&E. And you had said you have the detailed descriptions. We don't have those,
Yeah,
so.
we don't have it. It's kind of tough to go over.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is based off of last year's. I have that if you need that.
And there's certain items that are, you know, like uniforms, you're way overextended.
Well, obviously, if I'm requesting 10 officers, that number's gonna be significant.
No, but
This year.
for this year.
There were some line items that was incorrectly put in there, that's already been addressed, with Carlene. Some of it should have went in, new personnel expenses, and it wasn't. And that includes, I'm gonna show this right now. So you're under uniforms?
Mhm.
So a lot of these uniforms should have been under new personnel. So you'll see, because this is actually the uniform. No, it's in the back.
Yeah, this is all canine stuff.
All right, so uniforms, there's only $2,000, I believe, applied for uniforms, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, and basically that was for replacement uniforms, damage in the line of duty, or something minor that might be bought. A lot of the new personnel have been assigned to this uniform budget rather than the new personnel expenses. So that has already been addressed through Carlene, that a lot of these things should have been moved over. My recommendation for next year is just to take one line item and make it uniforms. Because right now we have uniforms and new personnel expenses, which is part of uniforms. So that would be my recommendation. In order to
But even if you combine those two, you're still
You're still
overextended by
So-
over $6,000.
Yep, so a lot of these things on here have to be reimbursed back to the town. They never supplied us with a jacket, but we had an extra jacket that we gave the officer just last week. Something like the motorcycle unit, that should have came out of my forfeiture, because that's where all my motorcycle stuff has come out of. So I was reviewing a lot of this stuff the other day. The patch reorder, that was significant. I didn't happen to see that. See here, $3,000 replacement and new. Some of that new should have came out of personnel expenses, new personnel expenses.
All right. The canine costs, what's the plan for the extra dog? I know you said you were intending to try and sell them or donate them, but
So just talking to Sergeant Bonner the other day about it, more than likely, we're just going to turn it into a drug dog. It's already been trained in narcotics. It's ready to go for narcotics. It's not trained in marijuana, which none of the new dogs can be trained in right now. So it's actually a benefit because the other two dogs are trained in marijuana. So if the dog actually hits on a car, it's not going to be found valid through the courts because of that. Problem is that I need a handler, and I don't have the personnel right now to send somebody. They can't.
and how's that going to work with basic obedience if there was an issue with that?
No, it wasn't, it was more of a handler
Okay.
dog issue at the time. Nick Bonner is caring for the dog right now, and it's just dogs.
All right. We got to figure out a plan for that
Yeah.
quickly because we've been paying for it for
Yeah.
quite a while.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely a concern.
Honor Guard, you still have a balance? You haven't expended any money out of that?
No.
Is there any expected to be?
No.
You're not expecting any expenditures out of that? Is it needed then for next year, or?
Don't know what may come around. I just didn't need to buy anything this year.
Right.
But if you want to remove it, and I can use forfeiture.
How about we reduce it?
That's fine.
1,000?
I'm fine with that. What was it now, 2,500?
1,000.
Just take that out.
Remove it altogether?
Move it all together.
All right.
If anything that's needed, it's going to be minor. I'll take it out for it.
left in specialized expenses.
40,000? What's under that category?
I'll show it to you right now, so I got it on my screen. What's the actual line item number?
417.
417? Body worn camera in one story. Cell phone there.
Like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
To catch all, but there's still a lot in there, so. What kind of breakdown you have for it?
I'm looking on it right now. I would have to compare what last year's,
Okay.
here's last year's budget. So I would have to compare what was already spent compared to what was requested.
I know the one addition, the cell phone app.
Which one?
If you
The cell
scroll
phone?
down, the
Cell
cell
phone?
phone app,
Yeah.
Tango.
Yeah,
It was.
Tango.
How many users, how many?
Lucky will explain that because we were just talking about it this morning.
Okay.
So all of our classes, and
That's the one where we had the radio on here.
Joe's probably not
Yeah.
familiar with it.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking is for other departments that have requested radios that might be a better solution.
I agree with you, and what we just decided this morning, because Mark asked me to,
be a
who else
lot
I wanted to
easier
put on
to
his
deal
Tango,
Yeah.
Right.
is, I'll just turn it on right now so you guys can hear it. But, you could put on anybody, obviously inside the OEM, any of your construction officials can go on that.
Can set different categories and
Correct. He'll be able to.
assign access.
Like,
Okay.
I want both of you guys on it, as well. We're putting, some of the principals on it around,
Okay.
around town.
Sure.
A couple of school personnel are going on it. Because if it ever becomes an issue, all we do is go into one computer program and just eliminate it from the
Yeah.
app.
Is this active all the time or only when you have
Yeah.
the app open?
You can keep it on in the background if you want to. You can actually text, it's a texting feature as well. You can go back and forth and have, private conversations if you want.
It's secure.
Yeah, you can secure it, you can make it a talk with us three, many, different applications for it. You know, you asked about encryption and all that, Mark, I already talked to him about it, he's gonna explain it to you. But you just have to dedicate a radio, you dedicate one of our radios to a base station, and that's how it works.
Okay.
So that has significantly decreased the cost for us.
Sure.
Well,
And
because,
all of our class threes now
so we're
have
not
one.
buying them radios, right? We're
Yeah.
using that.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep. So our class threes, and it works even better than a radio, even if a radio, they had it, because obviously inside the school, you know, like inside of the structure, like
Yeah.
building. But that works off of Wi-Fi, so as long as they're connected to Wi-Fi inside the building, you can talk to anybody, it doesn't matter. I could be on the other side of the country and still be able to talk, it's almost like a next step.
Hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but does it have a dispatch capability feature? Not thinking for you guys, but other,
Yeah,
pager
this
type.
is Mark's wheelhouse.
Yeah, I
Runs
figured.
ammunition.
I figured that was going to be your.
That's all. Yeah.
All right.
I'll talk to you about guns and ammunition all day. You start talking to me about that, you would see. But that was once he came to me and presented it, like he came to me, I went, absolutely. And I know you guys, I mean, you guys will, something like that. I mean, talking about reduction of, each of our radios costs minimum of $4,000 a piece.
Yeah.
4 is probably 8 now, isn't it?
And this is $75 per year.
Per
It's
user?
based on users. Oh, okay.
Per user.
Still.
Plus there's, you have, just have it like one fee, and then $7 each after that.
You know if there's a limit to how many channels, talk groups, anything like that? Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we did something like that, we'd probably have PD handle like the master account and
Right.
make
Create some
changes
accounts
into
for the other departments that necessarily would need them.
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
definitely with that.
I wonder what other kind of licensing do they have? Like, they have a enterprise type
I'm
thing that.
sure they have options.
Okay.
The only thing is that you just have to dedicate, you go down one radio. So all of our police explorers will be on it, when they're doing Howell Day or doing events.
Yeah.
You don't have to give everyone a radio. It's good, beneficial.
Okay. And that was under the specialized expenses, is that? Or was that under no, it's communications maintenance and repair?
That's what I have it on?
No, I'm asking, you have a
I have it
significant
under- I have
increase
it under specialized
to that.
expenses.
So last year we budgeted 278, you have 85,000 remaining, but you're asking for an increase of 17,000.
And what, where you at?
Communications.
433.
What's the,
433?
433.
okay, I'm on it. I have an increase of how much?
$17,000.
All right, so Mike.
I know I proposed this with you guys before, was bringing a kiosk, our self-reporting online kiosk here to Town Hall. Because I understand a lot of people come in here and they believe that this is the police department and they're directed to drive another a few more miles over by us. Right now, we have a self-reporting kiosk inside our, it looks like an ATM machine inside our lobby. What my whole plan was take that kiosk and put it down here as a mobile reporting unit for the police department. The annual contract, actually, I just got it reduced down. Originally, it was around $16,000 for an annual contract to have that, plus a lot of other reporting systems that come with it, mapping, hotspot mapping, motor vehicle crash analysis. Because we got that freestanding video directory a few years ago, that can take over that online kiosk that we have to do the same thing. So this is the quote that was given to me. This is where that $17,000 comes from. I actually got them down. She just sent me a quote yesterday saying that my request to bring it down lower was granted by LexisNexis. This quote was prepared on. This is the quote that I got on the 13th. So with that.
is. That's what we're broadcasting.
How many times is this used a year, the kiosk? How many reports are in general?
When we use it, Mark, this was my project when I first became captain. Because that's when we lost all those manpower, we decided we're not gonna respond to all these calls anymore, so then this is what I projected, what I requested we do. We were handling, it fluctuated, probably anywhere between, like 75 and 100 reports a month.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 75 is easy, I would think.
Yeah, so it was broken down to around, it averaged out around 80 online reports a month that it came down. Now, that's just the base number right there that I had to cover. If we start providing them all of our accident reports, they'll reimburse us some money on the back end of that. So, I just couldn't guarantee that. I couldn't budget that. So I budgeted for that. So what they quoted before. So that would give the capabilities of having it up and running here, the kiosk here, and give us some investigative tools as far as what Google crashes. It actually does hotspot mapping, actually satellite mapping. It runs different demographics for how many juveniles are involved in crashes, how many seniors have been involved, frequently known areas. It's all included in there.
So that we can lose that line item, right?
What's that?
Reduce that line item a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you still have
Right.
85,000 left in that this year.
And you've encumbered 42 for the rest of the year, it looks like already, so. Looks like we could even take that increase without, take that new piece without even an increase.
Mark, manager had a question about Tango Tango.
Good morning.
Bravo,
morning.
bravo. Good morning, come on up and join us.
Jeez.
Pull up some chairs.
Glad you asked.
He just got back from the dentist, so he might be drooling a little bit. Don't worry, it's not his age.
Thank you, Chief. I'll
Wait,
talk
this
to you
is
later about
This is
that.
the guy in charge.
Well, that was nice.
Ask more about the capabilities of that, how much it can be expanded. And part of it is, we have other departments that are requesting radios and stuff like that, so.
I looked
How
at
many
this,
talk groups, how many users, how many?
I came onto this as a fluke.
Okay.
Motorola had what they call the wave system, but we never, it was cost exorbitant. Needless to say, looking through certain periodicals and stuff, I found this Tango Tango, looked into it. I think it's great. You're talking the minimum $6,000 for an Apex 6000 radio for if you were going to add, obviously you need to give them to patrol officers, but SLEO 2s, SLEO 3s, whatever else, or even your people on the Board of Ed, not Board of Ed, the DPW. This thing here, initial cost is $1,800 for the unit, all right? It's $250 for setup. It's a one-time setup charge. And then every year you're going to pay the $1,800 for the lease of the unit and $72 per user. And when I say user, whoever uses the cell phone, they are provided with an app, whether it's an iPhone, whether it's what other type of phone or whatever else. And the app utilizes this whole put together thing. What you have is, I have a portable at the station that's connected to this unit.
Okay.
And I put it on PD1, all right? And anybody in that app will be able to listen and transmit on Police One. And I've had discussions with SLEO 3s in the schools. They sound like I'm talking to you on that portable right there. The thing about it is it uses Wi-Fi, and it also uses cellular. So if you can't have a cellular signal in the school, Wi-Fi. And what we're doing with the schools is trying to get a dedicated Wi-Fi for our officers so that we'll have bandwidth. Right now, when you go in there, depending on which school you're at, there's a lot of people using computers, whatever else. The bandwidth is low, so sometimes it's sporadic. But shouldn't be that hard to put a Wi-Fi network up just for SLEO 3 or police or whatever, which would give them that full capability. I've used it besides push to talk and also listening to you know, real time. The chief could be out in Chicago at his, you know, chief's convention and turn it on.
Yell at you, what's that
And
guy
he
yelling?
he could actually listen just right from there and actually talk. If there's something going on. There's some of the testimonials that we had with Tango. Tango was a chief of police that was 400 miles away that was actually running a pursuit that was going through his town in Alabama or Tennessee. And he was able to supervise that pursuit from somewhere else 400 miles away.
Do you know, like, do they have, on a grander scale, like enterprise licensing or whatever, if we're looking to expand something like this throughout different towns, or throughout the town, different departments, and then just give
The thing you
certain
have to
users
realize
certain
too
access?
is depending on what frequency you're going to use, all right, if you're going to have public works on frequency A, you're going to need a unit for that. If you have buildings and grounds on frequency B, you're going to need a unit for that. So you're going to talk about $1,800 per unit to have for each channel. In other words, if I wanted to go now and say, okay, I want to change over to channel 4 for us just to talk to supervisors, I got to go into the station or have somebody turn at the frequency 4. It only does one channel. That's the thing about it. It's one frequency. So I have it on PD1, which is our main frequency. So basically, everybody's on PD1, just like, you know, all the officers and everything else. If you were going to do it for a building department or whatever else, you just have to remember that the unit is only good for one channel at the time, whatever you have that channel on at the time. So if you're going to, for multiple users, has to be basically on one channel.
But can you run it on one app? Can you run 4 different channels on one app?
I don't believe so. No, because each app would be for a specific thing. The thing about us too is, with this, you can have, you remember the old Nextel systems? Okay, Nextel, you had basically call groups and stuff like that. Outside of the radio parameters of this, this also allows you to make groups. So right now I have a captains and a chief group that if I wanted to go on there and talk to them, I just go on and I'll go just to the captain and the chief and the 3 captains. And that's separate and distinct. It doesn't go over the radio system. It goes over the Tango system. So wherever I'm at, as long as I have a cellular site or a Wi-Fi site, I can keep in communications with these certain groups. And I've made a group for the SLEO 3s. I made a group right now for CSU. Not that they're really using it yet, but they're just getting used to this stuff. But it's there. And the same thing too is you can actually text message through this app too. If you don't, I mean, we text message through our regular phone numbers, but if you needed to text message someone, you can actually do a group text or text here.
All right. If you wanted to talk to the captains and the chief only, right, and you go on the app and you hit push to talk and you start talking, what's going to happen on his phone? Is his phone
If his
get an
phone
alert?
is not on, because since it's a phone and whatever else, and sometimes you don't want to be disturbed, there's a thing on there where you do not disturb. So if you're not, say you're off duty, you don't want to be disturbed. You press do not disturb. There's certain ways to do it. You can do not disturb the radio app. You can do not disturb the entire app, which means if you do the whole app, you're not going to get that conversation or that beep tone. But if you have it on and it's running in the background, and I call the chief, he's going to hear me. He's basically, you know, hey, chief, are you out there or whatever on that channel? It's just going to be like Nextel. It's going to beep beep and hey.
Okay.
But for the price, with respect to us, with respect to our SLEO 3s, you got what, 12 or 13 SLEO 3s. If you were to do $6,000 times 13 or 12, it's a lot of money versus $72 a year. And to have communications in the chief and the command structure being able to listen in on things even when they're not around here, or say they're down South Jersey where our radio limitations are, you're still going to be able to.
Okay. Yeah, we're asking a lot more for other, you know, other
I
applications.
know Tom's
throughout the
River,
towns.
Chief Little was looking into this too. So I told him that if, you know, make sure we get the credit for it.
Referral.
Yes.
All right.
Mark, I was explaining to you before about the buffers of patrol and the minimum manning levels that we have right now. And Brian, just going back to what you said about the specials, I mean, it's been a tremendous help, there's no doubt about it. That has been a great asset. It's something that we've never done in our police department where we supplemented patrol with SLEO 2s. It works, I mean, obviously it benefits those guys on the road, plus it gives those SLEO 2s that experience. So when we switch them over to a patrolman, they're already ingrained into the patrol division, which is excellent. But you also know that I can't count on us manpower.
Yep.
That's an issue as well. But that is a great resource. I mean, it's something, again, that we've never had. Guys, absolutely very beneficial to them as well. And thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. But I was talking to them about the buffer that we're trying to do. Still back to the patrol thing and how we're looking at this very minute right now. He asked me about K9. Jesse, how you came to me putting him back on the road for the next few months. How about patrol? If you want to expand upon that and maybe more about.
Well, again, without creating much overtime or anything, just right for a quick fix, Jesse being in specialized services, we could have him on day shift for the time being until we get possibly another officer in there to replace him. But again, we've done all these requested things that the town wanted. Specialized services, we've got more people in traffic. We've got a CSU that's killing the drugs and everything else. We've taken that from patrol, and patrol has basically stayed consistent over the last couple of years as far as manning levels, but our call level's been gone up. I mean, we're up to over 60,000 calls right now. I think we were up to 60,550 last night. And again, if you go into work there on an evening shift, everybody's lit up, everybody's going from call to call. Granted, there are times where, there's a lull, but everybody's working. We have court on Wednesdays and Fridays. We need an extra officer there to facilitate transports of prisoners to and from the court for services, or they're going to be sentenced. So, again,
I was focusing more on basically how you told me that we're hurting, that we're at minimums.
we're at minimums every single day, and with respect to this situation where I was talking to the chief about putting the K-9 in for day shift, if we didn't do that, once we schedule all the mandated training and all vacations, you're going to be at minimum, and there's a lot of days there where you're not going to be able to schedule vacation time or time off or extra training for these guys because the minimum manning levels are right there. I mean, maybe you have one officer that you can give training to or give it time off, but then you're at minimum. There's really no buffer, which we used to have a long time ago.
I explained to them how we met with the lieutenants and basically said you have to really specialize your schedules. You just can't be a generic schedule every single year. You really have to analyze your call volume, your activity levels, and really adjust your schedules. That way, somebody may not, there may be one less weekend spot available next year, or there may be one less, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday slot available to give somebody else the weekend off. So, because that's where,
Well,
it's not easy.
take for instance day shift. We try to keep our things Monday through Friday, and try to keep a heavy hand on Wednesdays and Fridays because those are the court days. That's when we need most of the people. And on day shift is when you have all the motoring public and everything else there. So maybe we can give somebody off, an extra guy off Saturday, Sunday. But now you go on to midnights, okay? What's our busiest times? Fridays and Saturdays. So Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays, we're going to have that manpower there. Maybe we'll have a little less on the other days. But we're trying to put the pegs where they need it. And that's what we've done, and all three lieutenants of patrol have done that with their schedules so that we have the most people on the days that we need them. However, again, when you have certain things and you have a minimum people, you still have training, you still have vacations, you still have all this other stuff. It's kind of hard to do that, and it's getting harder and harder.
Let's continue with the O&E stuff, as we're moving along. 501, conferences. 11,200 was budgeted, and still have 6,000 remaining in that.
I pulled off from forfeiture, you know that.
I do.
Yeah, so, we still have, there's still some reimbursement out there from Chicago. I still have some of my reimbursement, that's gonna be around 2,500.
All right.
So, next year, if you wanna knock that down some, I have no issue with that, because you know that I pull a lot of that from my forfeiture account anyway.
What do you think you can make do with?
What is it now?
11,200.
And what did I spend so far this year?
6,000.
How about we do, 8,000?
Okay.
You okay with that?
Got that, Lou? Training and education too. You'd asked for an increase, but you still have 5,600 remaining.
Keep the same.
Same, 20,000?
Remember, you get it, I'm preparing this in August. and
Yeah.
September.
Yep. Even as the year goes on, I'm sure we'll drill down even more. Emergency equipment, what gets charged to that? 613?
Personal protective equipment, sanitizers, soaps, towelettes, disposable gloves, blankets, blood, urine collection kits, batteries, radios, flashlights, thermal imager cameras, police barrier tape, flares, replacement of air purifying respirators, vehicle identifications and markings, alcohol test solution repairs, unanticipated expenses, automated external defibrillators. Talk about that.
But how much of that was taken out of specialized expenses? A lot.
You mean like
I saw
the
AED stuff, gloves,
Yeah.
all that stuff is
So
in specialized
it was
expenses.
put under the wrong.
Okay.
But we're under on both, like a lot. So maybe there's some, it sounds like you guys are getting everything you need in a reasonable,
Yeah.
way, but we're still way over in budget on both line items. So it almost seems like we could cut both line items and you guys could still get everything you need based on what we're seeing as far as the purchases are going.
So, I mean, especially with the flares, I mean, that is something that we're almost stock as needed,
Right.
so, can we cut that? I mean,
Well,
this is the.
we're asking for a lot. We're looking for anything we can.
I get it,
To cut anywhere we can.
I'm always wanting to work with you, understand?
Oh, if you want to cut that to half of the flares, fine. The thing is
How are we
that
looking on flares, you know that?
right now, I just got over the summer, I got a pallet full, which is 100 boxes. But again, you get a big storm, you get this, you get that, they go quick.
Yeah.
So I like to keep,
I mean, you can use emergency funds if we actually need.
The other thing too, some of the things that you'd rattled off, just alcohol supplies, that should be charged to your PDF. That's definitely one of the expenses available for that.
Yeah, I think actually when we sent ours out for repair, that was covered under that.
See,
Yeah. In fact, that was $3,000 right there. So.
One of the things that might help, I think, is you guys have so many different purchases over the years, and I know I do this in my own budgeting. There should almost be that list should almost be on a sheet somewhere that is given to whoever's doing your POs to make sure they're directed to the right account.
charging the right line.
Because it just,
Yeah, I agree.
the trainings, the educations, the conferences. The training is a conference. Is it, are you buying AED pads out of here? Or are we buying it out of EMS? Or are we buying it out of specialized
Yeah,
expenses?
well-
And honestly, if you have someone different do the PO from the last person that did the PO, because let's face it, we can't have the same person do it all the time.
Or just combine
It's just
emergency-
indifferent.
Just combine emergency equipment with specialized expenses.
Right.
Or just do emergency expenses. I mean, it's so many different line items, just like,
Right.
the uniforms and new personnel expenses. And I get it, they are different, but can we all include them in one? Just uniforms.
Is there reasons that I know we want to make sure we can track as much as we can, but is there any other reasoning? Well, maybe that's something we should look at the overall and decide if we can combine a few
That
to
would
make
be
it
great.
easier, because then if
instead of
someone
playing,
different.
oh, you got this.
Well, that has come up when I've seen something that I saw, and I'm reviewing purchase orders assigned, And that is very common for me to talk to Carlene about that.
Well, but at the same time, when we review them after they come off the line, we
Yeah.
see, we basically look at the title and say, okay, yeah, that looks like it fits.
Yes.
You know, and
I could see combining those two, but the new personnel one, I think we should keep that separate from uniforms because it's easier to have, you know, your uniform line, which is going to be consistent versus new personnel that's going to fluctuate with how many officers are approved that year.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be an easier one to
guess
keep
that's true.
separate. You know, if we're approving 0 officers, well, you don't need new uniforms. If we're approving
Correct.
20, obviously that's going to be.
20 times X.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so if you want to knock that down, what am I
Well-
looking at right now? Here, I'll tell you what.
Well,
You have what, right?
we'll have to talk some more about that, 613 and 417.
Right, so.
See what's charged against them, and also what your explanations are under them that we didn't get yet, so.
You had 75% of that 613 line item still there, which is, you know, 16,000
I wish I knew
out of
that.
20.
Yeah.
Lou, transfer that out.
But there's some other things that I need around headquarters, you know, just basically like mats, like I don't have mats. So I was actually gonna send you an email asking if I can expend some of the remaining money in there to buy some of those all-weather mats that just have absolutely deteriorated around this way. So,
All right, I would just like get it in sooner rather than later because he's trying to wrap up the year end, so.
Right, make all the transfers.
All right, let's move on to
EMS.
EMS.
All right, so here we go. So I know this is going to be an issue. So I did a breakdown of, you're going to see that it all comes down to full-time EMTs. We have now become, like a Seaside Heights Class 2 of EMTs, whereas people come to us to get hired, to get trained, to get the experience, and then you move on to another PD that has full-time. We're starting to see more and more PDs starting to have full-time units. Manchester's starting to. We've already lost a couple people to them as well. All right, so what I did was I projected it out, how much these full-time EMTs would cost us compared to what we're spending now. Yeah, it is a significant difference, but we are losing people on a regular basis. We never did because there wasn't too many other agencies that had full-time units. Now we're starting to see it more and more. We've been trying to manage it on our level, and it's gotten to me to the point that I just don't have an EMS coordinator doing any more of making this an issue. I have Lieutenant Fowler who's in for running squad. I have Captain Starr who oversees the entire unit come to me and telling me that these full-timers are desperately needed. So 4 full-timers at 2,080 hours a year.
How many?
4
You have more
at
listed.
2,080.
Got 8 listed. You got 8
Oh, yeah.
and a coordinator.
Okay. Right. I mean, obviously, it's something that I know it's a big hit on the budget, but I also know that my income obviously is a lot more than my expenses right now. That's, if I can have at least a few full-timers, it doesn't have to be all 8. I understand how much of a hit that is on the budget. That would go a long way with actually having consistent personnel always here. As far as that other supervisor, Melissa has been on my unit for many years. This has been spoken about with her position since I've been a captain back in 2012. It's come up in the budget every single year. Each year I was told that we just hold off another year. It's getting to the point that I want that additional full-time supervisor. Now, I know I've explained in the past, and Brian, I know this is your expertise on this. Right now, Peggy is my administrative coordinator, right? Melissa is doing all of the truck inspections, she's she's out there on the field, she's on the rig a lot of the times, and she's pulling in about 29 hours a week. So I did the breakdown on her. 2,080 hours at $30 an hour is what all my supervisors make, that's 62.4. Right now she's at $25 an hour at 26 hours a week, which is 33.8, which is a difference of 28,600 on her salary. So hers would be an extra 28.6, and then obviously the benefits package on top of that as well. The 4 full-timers at 2,080 hours a year, at $17 an hour is $141,440. Break it up here if you want to see it. This is how I came up with all the numbers here. Here's a 4 full-timers, 2,080 hours, $17 an hour. That's what it comes down to. Melissa, this is where she's currently at. This is where I would like her to be at. This is where she's currently at. And that would be the difference. This is all the breakdown of all of the. This is how I come up with my numbers. A breakdown of all of the shifts. Obviously, when they are working, how many times they are working. And then as a result of the full-timers, this is what would be removed from the part-time wages. All down here. So, I know it's a lot, but we're losing. I believe this year we've already lost 80 MTs. So again, we're being treated as if we're the Seaside Heights, we're the Point Beach of the Class 2s. We train them, the equipment, they get the experience, and we leave for a full-time.
Something wrong with that. Launched many good careers.
Yeah, I get it. I understand, and I'm not asking for a completely full-time unit.
What shifts do you plan on covering? Like if you're given 4 full-timers or the full 8 requested, what blocks are you going to schedule?
It would be, I would leave that up to my EMS to figure that out. I'm thinking, obviously, during the most critical times. I mean, Mark, when are we having coverage times? It was on, I know it was on Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday during the evening and up to like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, we basically had the volunteers were dealing with that. Because we didn't have, or we only had one, the response truck, to go over.
I mean, if we could phase them in, if we could do something in order to, it's one issue when my EMS coordinator is saying it, but it's an issue when now the lieutenant, who's very responsible, the captain of the unit, coming to me going, we have a situation here, we're trying to manage it, we're coming to you now. For the first time, so I took over the unit back in 2012, did a lot of changes in it, we finally started making money where we didn't in the past. Over this past year, and I was furious about it. There was a few times, probably a handful of times, where we didn't have a truck on the road. That was just completely unacceptable. So, and that's when I made an issue about it. They came to me and said, this is, so obviously my reaction was, we'll start hiring people that can work the weekends. Well, they were, but it's, person leaves for a full-time position somewhere else. Now you're looking for somebody else that can fulfill that position. We started talking about having a contract where the part-timer sign that if you leave within a year, you owe us for your equipment or whatever else, training in order to get you up to that level. But the comment was, they're going to probably be willing to pay it because they're going ahead and get a full-time job. So, and then there's always this notion about the county starting up their full-time unit. So if that happens, we're going to lose more people. So we have a very respectful unit here. I know there's, and again, I know that money, the extra money that we make is just not floating out there for anyone to grab. I get it. It's used to offset other stuff. I get it. But what I'm asking for is some assistance on that EMS side in order to get a couple full-timers in there. We've never had it. Our program's been in existence since 2000. And we've never had it. Peggy was our first full-timer. I'm just looking for at least an additional road supervisor out there and some full-time.
So, what is it that Peggy's doing? You're saying Melissa's doing the inspection, she's doing all this stuff.
Peggy does a lot of
Tell me-
scheduling. She does a lot of scheduling. She does the insurance billing. I know she handles a lot of that.
Do I have a company that does that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she sends them the sheets. That's,
Yeah, but there's still a lot.
training. She does a lot of training too.
Well, she schedules a lot of training, and Melissa does some of it as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I didn't have her be here today, but she would explain everything that she does, but having been involved in that, you know, for many years.
One of the issues that's come up, and, I have the scanner on in my office all day long, it's, when you
I get it.
hear them dispatch and, Howell First Aid is jumping on it, saying we're closer, and our paid people just sit back and, all right, you handle it.
Yeah, but I also hear, I'll refute that too, because if there's calls north of Georgia Tavern Road, 198 always gets that, and 62 or Howell First Aid is told to stand down. So I don't believe all.
That wasn't always the way, though.
But for
it's,
the last-
recently it has been.
For a
I
long
have
time
heard
now,
that
for
recently.
at least this year.
Correct.
Dispatchers have been given the priority, okay, where's the closest unit? If the rig's at Howell First Aid and I got a call at Brandywine, 198's taking a call, all right? And it's been historic that way, so it's not like we jump calls, it's where they're at. And I've also heard where 198 was down, maybe getting lunch or dinner one time, and they're down at Lanes Mill at 9, and there's a call over Alexander Avenue. They take the call, and 1921's told to stand down. So the dispatchers are doing where proximity is.
But that does happen. I agree with
And
that.
it does from time to time, but they're doing, the dispatchers have been told, make a judgment call, okay, where this thing is, so we don't have two things going around.
Right. And that has been a source, that has been a long-standing issue for as long as the EMS unit has been around, even from its inception, when all the volunteers started thinking that, they're
Stealing money.
Right. So I've been at many of those captains' meeting where the discussions have been in about the closest unit, you're not racing to the call, you're gonna have somebody stand down. But I've also seen, where I was sitting right across the street from the first aid building, and they said they're in service for our police unit to stand down, and I watched
Take their
probably
time.
several minutes before they
Right.
went down to the building.
Right.
So-
There's some communication issues
Yeah, no,
between the two that need to be
No
addressed.
doubt.
So,
I definitely agree with you on that. But it's also on our end as
Yeah,
well.
it's gotten better, okay, I'm gonna tell you,
Definitely
from
has.
what I've heard, and I listen, and I'm a member of Howell First Aid, and I see it, and I usually bring it to their attention, hey, you call in service, you're in service.
But also, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to lose my train of thought if I don't bring it up. But
Happens.
it was also looked upon as, all right, whether or not PD gets it or how First Aid gets it, there's still that portion that still goes back to the town, right? So it's not like the town loses out on everything because PD doesn't get it, right?
but
Percentage thing,
it's costing us more money. And just the idea of you now have government employees that are sitting there with, their feet up or doing whatever they're doing while, that's going on. There's a perception issue. And also, now we have one of the first aid squads that's basically non-existent now. How are we modifying coverage areas? What's being done for that? Like, that's something I would expect somebody should be taking a proactive role with that I haven't seen happen.
The also problem is that in order to, because this came up, talking about right now, that has been a source for many years, even before we got here. And we always spoke about putting an extra rate up in that area, but it's hard enough to find. You get it.
Yeah. But does the COA volume necessitate a third crew on, or is it, all right, well, the two that we have existing, we need to move around?
Yeah, but it's the whole thing about police department as well, right? So it's response time. So you may have somebody from the public say, oh, why do you need another police officer out there when you don't have that many, you don't have a particular amount of calls up in that section of town. Well, it's also you have to consider response time as well. If there is a call, what it's going to take for that officer to get there. Right? We used to double up sectors. We used to double up 1 and 2, which is the entire north of Howell, one car. You just can't have that. You just can't have a car. You just can't have a car in Adelphia, and something kicks off at 33 at Earl Gate. That's just the response time is ridiculous in order to get up there.
Yeah,
Of course.
I'm not saying move them completely into Ramtown,
Right.
but, somewhere closer to the border would be,
Yeah, I agree. And there's always communication going on like that at the PD, and I know he attends a lot of those meetings. That kind of, and I told you I have direct communications with him. know Mark still attends those meetings on a regular, captain's meetings on a regular basis.
How many transports are you guys up to for the year? You know? For 19.8?
I don't have
I
that.
can get you that by the end of the day, that's one report they could do on.
I'd like to see where we're at for the year.
Using EMS charts?
Yeah. EMS charts.
EMS charts, you just go right on there and you just click on whatever category you're looking for.
Okay, looking at their O and E,
I think I covered the same, right?
yeah,
There was a request for.
there's an increase in specialized expenses. What's,
Exactly what
I don't know the explanation for that.
So,
Yeah.
More than double. And training.
what number is that?
417.
What's the actual title? Specialized? budget?
Specialized expenses.
Okay, here it is. Specific non-disposable specialized items, including items unique to EMS, such as the binder lift device, which is $1,800 for assisting patients under 300 pounds from both assisted lift situations and transfer to and from the stretcher. These devices are designed to reduce the risk of workplace injuries from deadlift situations. Bariatric inflatable air mattress for moving a morbidly obese bariatric patient from supine to sitting or standing position using minimum staff and also lessening risk of injury to the EMS provider. That's $4,000.
That's $4,000.
$4,000. Replacement Raptor stretcher mattresses at $600 a piece times 4 for $2,400 to replace aging mattresses and remain with Department of Health standards. Replacement of aging turnout coats and addition of helmets is $6,000. Replacement striker stair chair, $2,900. AEDs, $3,500. Replacement batteries to auto load systems, $3,600. Turnout boots, other various items. An additional Zoll auto post, spare batteries to bed. I can put that on. So this is, you
If
can
you
keep
can get me a copy of that to review.
You can keep it. Here you go. That's for
Alright.
you.
And then,
That's my EMS notes.
training and education, is that on here as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you this. This shows my. It shows you all my notes. You take this.
Okay. Just as a point, training and education, we budgeted 5,000. There's 4,200 remaining for 2019. And you're asking for a $13,000 increase in that. So,
That's 504. So it's the way that it was looked at, $1,000 per full-time EMT. So 8,000, which is, it looks like $8,000 here, plus $5,000 what's current for 13,000. That's those notes. All right, up top there.
all right.
You go with that?
Well,
I can slow it aside too.
move on to dispatch.
In fact, I think it's less than last year. Because you had two dispatchers go from top salary and two new ones hired at.
Did you find a second replacement yet, or?
Yeah, we did.
You did.
We're in the process of that. This first week of December, we're having testing for the 7 finalists out of the whole panel that we interviewed. And at that point in time, we'll bring the chief the decision of that.
Okay.
back to slower.
Overtime. Looks like we're $16,000 over expended in overtime.
Killing it. It's almost double.
So we're at the point where. Are you able to see what my overtime was expended last year for dispatch? Are you able to pull that up? For all of, well, can you tell me what it is as of? We're also training part-timers this year.
Wouldn't that,
I know we had that storm.
wouldn't that be under part-time, or would that be, or overtime?
Was there a significant amount of overtime as a result of the storm? When we lost all power? Yes. And also being down in one person in December, we're going to be a significant amount of shifts that we're going to be over. Yeah, but what the manager's talking about is what's already been. Right, right.
Total for 2018 was just short of $36,000. That was for the full year.
And what am I this year?
36,000 year to date.
So I'm on.
With a month to go. Month and a half. By the time we post.
And there were unique circumstances to that too, you know, with the two dispatchers becoming officers.
Can you do me a favor? Can you run an overtime report for?
Jakowski leaving.
Sure. Just let me know how much was generated as a result of this storm and the OC up and everything. Or you can have Dave do it.
Hey, Dave, want to take care of it?
Okay.
Just to, I know we're sitting on a couple of dispatch, but just go back, with the PD, we still consciously watch our overtime. I mean, despite us having, obviously, the shooting, we had that storm, which we had a month kicked on, and me being able to supplement control with an extra supervisor, which we still like we're gonna come in that kind of budget for overtime, so, you know, we're constantly making.
With a month left.
Yeah.
Communications maintenance, there's $2,000 increase. This year, out of 67, 2 budgeted, still have 7,000 remaining. What's the increase for?
That is definitely just gonna be, just the standard increase that we get from our vendors.
Okay.
We had the 3-year maintenance agreement with when we bought our new radios. That's coming, you know, that came down to 3 years already, so there's a little bit extra in there to facilitate the continued maintenance agreement for those radios.
And you got that cut considerably.
I cut that by, I think probably about 10 grand when I talked to Motorola. They originally wanted to give me $57,000, and I actually went down to like 47.
And then training, there was no money expended out of that.
That's what I'm doing now, most of it's done in-house.
And you foresee that to continue on that, or
What is the line?
2,500?
You wanna cut it?
I-
Because I can
I'm
also,
asking.
I can use PD funds for that.
All right.
I can use PD for that.
And you're requiring people to be trained to be hired, so that eliminates that. And so it would just be continuing education. So, I don't know.
See, I'm gonna leave this on you. Now, we budget for that money, it's not being used.
Do we need to send anybody anywhere
No.
for anything?
But also recognizing that you're the one that does a lot of that training, and you have projected retirement of next year. I would like to keep the way it's currently at 2,500.
All right, we'll leave that for now. But if you can give me a breakdown of like what's expected to be expended out of that, rather than just a number. All right. I think that is it.
Some things I want to get to you
close this, or?
Yeah,
that way it's
yeah, I'm
not-
good with that. I know you guys got.
And we, no, it's outside or whatever. Okay, we are done.